Homan says he'll draw down about 700 agents. Minnesota Public Radio's Brian Bask says Homan insists agents will still carry out targeted raids.
Homan said several times it was smart law enforcement, not less law enforcement. He says a full pullback isn't here yet because there will still be some more than 2,000 agents in Minnesota, well above normal levels. And I want to be clear that even as Homan talks about a drawdown, agents are still out there making arrests. There are still protests. Observers are still out there with their whistles and cameras to record encounters.
Brian Bask reporting. Separately, NPR has learned the U.S. military has taken active duty U.S. troops off alert. More than 1,500 U.S. troops were being readied for possible deployment to Minnesota. The U.S. troops are not immigration officers. The Washington Post newspaper has cut 1/3 of its entire workforce. The paper is killing its sports desk and book section, and it's making profound cuts in its foreign and local coverage. The layoffs come at the behest of the newspaper's owner, billionaire Jeff Bezos. NPR's David Folkenflik reports the cuts will severely alter the paper's scope and ambitions.
Executive editor Matt Murray addressed the entire newsroom by Zoom Wednesday morning. Murray called the cuts a strategic reset as the paper's readers preferred coverage of national politics and national security. Bezos is the founder of Amazon and one of the world's richest people. He bought the paper in 2013 and invested in it deeply, saying it needed to innovate to survive. Now he demanded deep cuts to stem years of red ink. Former executive editors Marty Barron and Marcus Brauchley questioned the strategy. Notably, the paper's chief executive and publisher Will Lewis did not address the newsroom and has not so far spelled out the roadmap for the path ahead. David Folkenflik, NPR News.
Gaza's health ministry says Israel conducted new attacks today, killing at least 23 Palestinians. The Israeli military says it struck after one of its soldiers was severely wounded by gunfire in northern Gaza. Israel says this is a violation of the ceasefire. The military did not identify the attackers. NPR's Anas Baba reports.
Israeli tanks and artillery struck homes and tents overnight as people slept. Among those killed were at least 8 children and 7 women, says Gaza's health ministry. In one strike, a paramedic arrived to evacuate the wounded, but the same spot was struck again, killing the paramedic, a boy and a girl. At least 60 people have been killed in Gaza since Saturday in various Israeli attacks, despite the ceasefire. It marks one of the deadliest weeks in Gaza since Israel and Hamas agreed to a ceasefire that President Trump said ended the war. Anas Baba, NPR News, Gaza City.
On Wall Street, the Dow is up 280 points. You're listening to NPR.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Police in Millbury piecing together the events that led to one of their own getting shot last night while responding to a barricaded suspect at a shopping plaza in Spencer. The incident led to a very large police response and the temporary closure of Route 9. According to a statement from Millbury Police Chief Brian Leos, the officer, who was also a member of the Central Mass Law Enforcement Council SWAT team, sustained multiple gunshot wounds during the incident, which happened about 7:40 last night. He adds that the suspect was killed during a shootout with police. Worcester Guardian reports that the wounded officer was taken to UMass Memorial Hospital in Worcester. He is expected to survive. Add the Bellevue, Washington-based outdoor retailer Eddie Bauer to the list of growing national chains that's liquidating its stock and closing its brick-and-mortar locations due to bankruptcy. BizNow reports that most of the Eddie Bauer's roughly 180 locations in North America are expected to close as part of its restructuring plan. The Eddie Bauer name and intellectual property are owned by Authentic Brands Group. Eddie Bauer has 4 locations here in Massachusetts, one in Lynnfield, one in Burlington, Rentham, and one in Lee. Bruins in Florida tonight, their last game before the break for the Olympics. The Celtics are in Houston, partly sunny, low 30s today, cloudy and 10 degrees overnight. It's 27 in Boston right now. It's 25 in Springfield. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, supporting books, radio, podcasts, film, television, theater, and more to bridge science and the humanities, and the listeners who support this NPR station.
listening to BPR and GBH at 8 p.m. Jim Brady and Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Tomorrow, we'll be joining, not here, but in Brighton, with MIT President Sally Kornbluth. She'll join us tomorrow, as I said. And on Friday, we are back here with Livingston Taylor performing at the library. On the 10th of February, also at the Boston Public Library, Mayor Wu will be back for her monthly visit. Good morning, Jim.
Hey there, you don't have to wait till Friday for Liv Taylor. We have an incredible artist, Farayi.
We do.
Who we heard rehearse this morning, is going to be performing for you and us in about 40 minutes. I wouldn't miss that. If you're here, stick around. If you're not, you should join us. So Trump says yesterday we should move on as a nation from the Epstein files. Hundreds of thousands of documents have been released, actually millions, some heavily redacted to protect the men, others not redacted at all, effectively re-traumatizing women who were young girls abused at the hands of those very same men. But like any good reporter, Caitlin Collins of CNN pressed further, and big surprise, got under Trump's already bruised orange skin.
I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else,
what would you say to people
like
who feel like they haven't gotten
healthcare,
justice, Mr. President?
something that people care about. Yeah, what did you say? Go ahead.
What would you say to the survivors who feel like they haven't gotten
You are the
justice?
worst reporter. No wonder CNN has no ratings because of people like you. You know, she's a young woman. I don't think I've ever seen you smile. I've known you for 10 years. I don't think I've ever seen a smile in your face. You know why? You know why you're not smiling? Because you know you're not telling the truth, and you're a very dishonest organization, and they should be ashamed of you.
The lines are open at 877-301-8970 to talk about the nauseating way Trump talks to women reporters, what it says about how he thinks about all women. Remember, we should move on from the Epstein files, and what it says about all of us, that this conduct isn't immediately disqualifying for the Trump administration. Sexual assault or harassment seems to be a prerequisite. What do you make of this at 877-301-8970? But you know what's more important to me than what you make of this?
What?
What do you make of the fact that not one single reporter in the Oval Office, after this abuse by Trump on a reporter trying to do her job, not one said a word in support? In fact, the next reporter, Hannah, listened to the tape, just asked a question about healthcare like nothing happened. So what do you think about that? The lack of solidarity, lack of support from from coworkers, from other reporters. And secondly, if a coworker of yours, not by the most powerful man in the world, but by anybody in authority, was attacked at work, for example, would you just be like a potted plant like these reporters were? Be silent, do nothing to support? I have to say, I hate when people do what I'm about to do and equate things. Almost as disgusting as Trump is every time he opens his mouth, particularly when he's talking to women reporters, is the fact that there is absolutely no solidarity among these people. That piggy comment on the plane a month or so ago. Did anybody walk away, or did they all walk away en masse? Did they maybe ask the exact same question to show support? No, it's disgusting.
Well, they could all ask the exact same question to show support. And I mean, you know, I'm of two minds of this. I mean, on the one hand, this is showing Trump for who he is. He called the other woman, Catherine Lucy, Miss Piggy. And then he told Mary Bruce from ABC that, oh, you're terrible, you're awful, go back to learn how to be a reporter, no more questions from you. I mean, this is what he does, showing himself for who he is. He's done this to men reporters, too. I mean, you may...
Not even close.
Well, I think women upset him, obviously, because women have gotten the best of him so many times. Classic for me was years ago in Trump won, when Nancy Pelosi in her 80s stands up across the table and points to him, and she's shoving her finger at him, and he's like shrinking. Violet Lynn Cheney stood up to him. We've seen even Marjorie Taylor Greene, who went after him. So we've seen women go after him. It really drives him crazy. But I'm much less worried about Caitlin Collins. I think she's tough. I didn't
say she couldn't handle it.
Yeah, well, that's
all.
what I'm saying. She's.
If you were sitting in a room, you're a reporter, when you were at the Herald or the Globe, if the boss at either place attacked a coworker like he attacks these women every time he gets a tough question, you just sit there and say, so what do you think
Jim,
about the school budget in Boston, boss?
I think in the real workaday world, bosses attack people all the time, and a lot of coworkers, it's very difficult to do something because they're coworkers, they're working paycheck to paycheck, they don't have any power.
Do you think these reporters in the Oval Office have no power?
I think they have a lot more power than the average person.
They sure as hell do.
Yeah, but what they could do is they could band together and ask the next question. I'd like to see that. Or they could just band together and decide they're all going to do something en masse.
Yeah,
But
like
one
how
of the-
about not go back today?
Well,
How about send a joint letter to, what's her name?
Well,
Levitt.
if you ever
and
listen to these press conferences with the people like from Mr. Pillow's reporters,
Yeah, well, let them go.
They
It's
say,
fine.
what can we do, Mr. President, to further
Not
your
talking
agenda
about
in the
them.
United States? Well, that's who'd be left. I mean, it's good to put him on the hot seat for some of these issues, and the people that are going to put him on the hot seat are the same people he's going to react against because he doesn't like being put on the hot seat. But this is just a continuation of who he is. Right? I mean, he made fun of a disabled guy first time around. He's made fun of war heroes. See, John McCain spent 5 years in a
he likes
in a
the ones
cage.
that don't die.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a rude, crude guy, and part of me thinks, let people see it. See if this is what they want. If they want a guy, most powerful man on earth, calling a reporter Miss Piggy, see if they're all right with that.
Okay,
Anyway.
so Elias in Boston says, am I the only man in this country whose brain is broken from not seeing a single man directly admonish this disgusting man to his face after all this time?
Well, that's my point before. It's women that have stood up to him.
Totally right.
I mean, Mike Johnson, this pathetic creature who's the House Speaker. I mean, he may as well crawl across the floor and lick out of a bowl of milk. He's so debased himself, and so have most of the Republicans. Thune, the head of the Senate. I mean, wow. I mean, he's a rich guy. It's amazing
Did you see the video of Mike Johnson yesterday? This is real. It's not AI. Sitting on Trump's lap with Trump's hand up his back. Did you see that?
No, but it's a good one.
877-301-8970. Claire in Maine, you are first on BPR. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I follow Caitlin Collins, and I listen to her. I watch her. If anyone can handle him, Caitlin Collins can't handle him.
Yeah.
He is one of the brightest people out there. So I don't worry about Caitlin.
Well, let me be clear, Claire,
she
before you
lost a lot.
continue, apparently I was not clear because you and Marjorie said similar things. I am not at all suggesting Caitlin Collins is not able to take care of herself. She clearly is. That's not the issue to me. The issue is when somebody you respect who's a colleague or a coworker is under attack, at least in my book, people rally around that person, no matter how competent, no matter how skillful, no matter how strong they are. And the reporters are just weaklings in my estimation. But go ahead, Claire.
Well, I think at this point, they're all probably having a good laugh over a martini of who was the victim of the day. I really don't even think that they think about it that much. And it gets them more attention, and not that Caitlin needs it, but, at this point, it's really who can get picked on today.
Well,
Because
Claire, you're a
people-
calmer person than I am because I watched that thing like 15 times last night, and I was ready to explode. Claire, thanks for your thoughts, though.
Caitlin
Appreciate
just
it.
bought this massive, beautiful house in Nantucket.
She did?
Yes, she did.
How do you know that?
I saw it somewhere.
Oh, then
yeah.
it's fine. It's okay. It's totally fine.
Yeah, and
Let
she
him
also
scream it
she
out.
also remember I forget when exactly it was, but she did this interview with Trump in a room full of Trump supporters. Remember that?
Oh, I do.
And
Of
every
course
time
I
she
do.
asked him a tough question, she all got booed and hissed from the front. So, as the caller said, she's a tough cookie. But I think, like as I also said, I think it's difficult for people in the day-to-day world to stand up to bosses to protect other workers because they think they're going to get fired, and they probably will.
By the way, an anonymous texter says, this is his comment to Collins that I never see his smile. Actually, I never have seen the autocrat-in-chief ever smile either. Just a thumbs up, idiot grin. None of us have anything to smile about. Remember Chuck Todd told us during Trump's first term that he had spent the weekend, he said, I'm embarrassed to say this, he spent the weekend watching every Trump tape I could find. He never saw him laugh.
Yeah.
So I think you make a good point
I
there.
think I saw him
Texter.
laugh when he was standing next to Jeffrey Epstein, and they were pointing at women across the room.
Well, that's when he was a young guy.
Leslie and Peabody, thank you for calling.
Hello, Leslie.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Good. Sorry, I have a head cold, but
It's okay.
I still wanted to call.
Well, go ahead.
I think the more important issue is his disdain for professional women, how he calls them out. And journalism 101 is the reporter is taught to remain expressionless during a newscast, during anything. So, to say that she doesn't smile is really insulting to professional women, I think.
Well, this is his stock and trade. I mean, he insults professional women, as you call them, every opportunity he has. And by the way, I'll say, I'm not suggesting that she should have done anything differently. When she came back and essentially responded to the smile thing, said, I'm asking you about survivors of sexual abuse or whatever exact words they were that she said, she handled it well. My criticism is not of her at all. It's of her silent, clueless colleagues. Thank you, Leslie, for
Here's
the
a
call.
good text. Female journalist, not the type of working girl Trump enjoys. It's one of our staffers. That is a very good one. I like that one.
Melissa in a car, you are next. People are not as upset about this as I am, which is making me more upset about it, I should say, just to be clear here. Melissa, hi, Melissa. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Long time listener, first time caller.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, but I'm calling just to agree with you, Jim. I think a lot more men need to stand up and do the bare minimum of, speaking out against this. Until people start calling other white men out on this, Trump will feel empowered to just diminish women over and over again. And I don't think it's women's responsibility to fight for it.
I'm with you, Melissa. That was great. Hannah, was the reporter that asked the health question a man or a woman? A woman. Well, that's unfortunate. In any case, and one of the ways, if you don't want to confront Donald Trump in a way that probably is not what a reporter should do, I guess, is what we were talking about a minute ago. And this has been done from time to time. Ask the exact same question.
Yeah, that's what I think would be great.
When he refused to respond,
just keep asking him.
He should say, the next reporter should have asked exactly what Caitlin Collins did, and the reporter after him or her, until Trump leaves the room or tosses everybody out. That would have been a simple, professional solution to an unprofessional character.
He loves to call women reporters nasty, or any woman nasty. They're nasty. She's a nasty woman. That's one of his favorite words.
Tom in Providence, you are next on BPR with Marjorie Egan and me, Jim Browdy. Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I'm a white man, and I'm completely disgusted with how he treated Caitlin Collins. But I'm also completely disgusted that we're just ignoring the fact that President Trump raped and murdered children. Disgusting.
Well, in all fairness, Tom, we're going to do a really deep dive, I hate that expression, tomorrow with Andrew Cabral about the Epstein files. There are stories in there and reports and accusations, but I think you know as well as I do, even if you find them to be credible, there is no proof. They're allegations. Would you not agree?
I would say when there's smoke, there's fire.
Maybe.
And the fact that they are purposely blocking out mention of people who emailed Jeffrey Epstein, I loved the child, and you have a president completely defending that, there is no other option to say. He raped and murdered children, and we are obfuscating.
Well, Tom, we don't. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Tom. It's your opinion. Thank you for the call. We don't have proof of that, even though I would say there is a lot of smoke in those documents. You know what's
There's no
also
evidence
interesting?
of that, I should say.
Do you know that? Well, they're allegations, right? No
Allegations.
evidence. Do you know that in one image, the young woman's face is not blocked out, and Trump's face is blocked out? I mean, how great is that? They literally went out of their way to protect every perpetrator, rapist in this situation, but didn't show nearly the same care when it came to one of the 1,000+ women.
Like I said, it says something about this oligarchic thing that everybody's floating around, and all these people with all this money and yachts and boats and women, and they all just float in this sleazy soup, as I called it yesterday. It's kind of, and apparently most of them thought it was okay. People in academia, people in high places. It just says,
including right across the river in the highest of places at Harvard, obviously.
It just says something not very good.
I ask you this question quite often, so let me ask you again, and you'll probably give me the same answer. A woman who supports Trump, forget the attack on the journalists, because I'm sure they hate journalists, because there's all fake news, as we know, from Donald Trump. When he says we should move on, we'll play the sound again when Juliette Kayyem joins us in a minute. When he said it's time for the country to move on, how many women, do we know, is it 1,300, 1,200, at minimum, how many women do we know were
more than
raped,
1,000,
abused?
more than 1,000, yeah.
How does the average, assuming they know it, and I know you're going to say on Fox News, if you only watch Fox News, you would know it. When they hear we should move on, and not one person is identified other than former Prince Andrew, are they okay with that? Are Trump women supporters okay with that?
I don't know. Women are sometimes harder on women than men are on women. I mean, that's been kind of a cliche about jury trials. But I tell you what, I think is going to hurt him more is these children, like that little boy, Liam, in these detention centers, where the more you hear about these detention centers, there are children in there for weeks and months, and the food is lousy, and the water's putrid, and they're cold at night. I think children, I think most people can agree that we don't want to treat children that way. I mean, Donald Trump obviously doesn't agree, but I think most normal people do not want to put children in detention centers.
I hope so. Amy in Boston, hi.
Hey, guys. So, funny enough, I heard something on Hidden Brain, well over a year ago.
Great.
And what? He spoke about the phenomena about being in a group of people and someone is getting bullied, like the reporter at the White House, or in any group where he says Miss Piggy and no one defends. It's this phenomenon that the group waits to see who, if anyone, is going to stand up and say something because they don't want to put themselves out first.
And is the end of the sentence, and if one person does do the right thing, at least in my estimation, the right thing, that others will follow? Is that the notion?
I can't remember what he said about that, but it's like a real phenomenon that people kind of panic because they don't want to be the person that stands up and then potentially gets in trouble for stopping the bully. But he also went on to say that the people who aren't saying anything and just sitting there are almost as bad as the bully.
I am so glad you said that. I am with you, Amy.
Well, think about it. Think about it in your own life,
you, Amy.
Especially when you're kids, seeing somebody get bullied in school. It was so gratifying when you saw that one person, a boy or a girl, get up and stand up for the bully. We read about that in the Prime Minister of Denmark last week that gave Trump such a hard time about Greenland, that she stood up against some bullies, some Nazi-type bullies. She was punched in the face for standing up for them, but she stood up for them. So there are people like that do that.
Can I do a self-serving thing or indirectly?
My
younger daughter, no, it's not about me. My younger daughter, one of the proudest moments of my life when she was in single digits in school in Cambridge, a substitute teacher was verbally abusing another kid because of his weight. And my kid stood up by herself.
Good for
she was
her.
7 or 8.
Good for
and
her.
Really and you know what happened? She got sent to the principal's office.
There you go.
She doesn't regret it, by the way. She doesn't regret it.
A chip off the old block,
well,
right?
I would say I'm probably a chip off her block.
By the way, Anna Girardas, who's a great writer and thinker, describes this Epstein class. Plenty of emails in the files describing rich people's movements throughout the world, affluent people being disgusted with having to stop at things like a highway rest stop because they get put in closer contact with regular people. That to me, is a lot of what this is about. It's a class thing. Anyway, thank you for sending that to us.
Stand up for your friends and coworkers.
Stand up for your friends and coworkers. We're going to talk with Juliette Kayyem coming up. We're going to get the latest on what's going on with the mother of Today Show star Savannah Guthrie. Her mother Nancy is disappeared, and we're also going to hear her little take on the Epstein files. I'm Marjorie Regan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR, GBH, and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, one cognitive researcher is risking his reputation to try and fetch an answer to the question, can dogs talk? We'll hear from him plus 2 owners who say their pups can communicate. Have you long dreamt of having a chin wag with your dog? The phone and text lines will be open at 877-301-8970. That's the Curiosity Desk today at 1 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Bryant University, presenting the 29th Annual Women's Summit, Illuminating Values, Inspiring Action, on March 19th, featuring New York Times bestselling author Ellen Hildebrand. More at wsummit.bryant.edu.
and McLean Middleton. For over 100 years, McLean Middleton has been dedicated to serving its clients and its community, offering guidance through the complexities of today's legal system. With locations in Woburn and Boston, McLean.com.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. In the 1 o'clock hour, Howard Bryant, who's written a terrific new book called Kings and Pawns, about the 12 o'clock hour. Sorry, we don't have a 1 o'clock hour anymore. Thank you very much, Zoe. About the intersection, I can't think of a better word, between Jackie Robinson and Paul Robeson in 70 plus years ago. It's a fabulous story. Sooner than that, in about 20 minutes, an incredible artist, Farayi, is going to perform here at the library tomorrow. Sally Kornbluth, president of MIT, last woman standing of the 3 women who testified at that first hearing in front of Congress. And Livingston Taylor joins us on Friday. We're joined now live at the library by Juliette Kayyem. Juliette's national security expert, former assistant secretary for Homeland Security under Barack Obama, faculty chair of the Homeland Security program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, and CNN senior national security analyst. Hello, Juliette.
Hello, everyone.
Nice to see you.
Same day, new time.
So, Juliette, we're going to do, I hate this phrase, but I'll use it anyway, a deep dive tomorrow with Andrea Cabral about the Epstein files, what she thinks. But just give us your sense. We just talked with our listeners about it. What's your big, is there a big takeaway you have from this? Is there a big theme? Is there a big...
I don't think that I am that wise compared to everyone else who's following this, which is, what was the word I heard? It was
rape.
Well, rape, but it was pedo adjacent. That there's, because we can't actually show that Donald Trump, did something with young children, although there's a lot of weird emails in there and everyone is talking in code. It's just, sort of like I had the best time of my life, or, are they tight, or whatever all this language is. But there's just a lot of people, including people related to my university, to Harvard, who were pedo adjacent, and it seems hard for me to believe that they weren't aware of what was going on. But I don't know if we've seen the email that sort of proves it. And
well, I would say what
and some of the emails are still being hidden.
What proves it constructively with smart people who are in touch with the world, which a lot of these elite players were, is a lot of these contacts that they said they never had happened after it was clear to the public.
Howard Lutnick.
What was going on? Oh, the Lutnick, that guy is, he's a piece of work.
Nothing seems to, there seems to be no effort to get rid of him. No one seems to be
Donald Trump is not.
Guy.
Donald Trump, what he learned from Trump 1.0, so when you think about Kristi Noem or Tulsi Gabbard, who's in the middle, that we had breaking news when I was sitting there about this complaint about some allegations about her or Trump in terms of national security. He doesn't fire people. Yeah. There is some isolating going on, so Kristi Noem probably would be wise to read the writing on the wall, but he's not going to fire anyone. That's what he learned from Trump 1.0, that was a sign of weakness, and no matter how disastrous it becomes, no matter what. So his lashing out at Caitlin Collins was clearly just, I'm not budging on any of this, and he won't. If it is not, again, I say every time I'm here, it's not popular, and we have to stop acting like he is popular. I mean, even the stuff on the election that he's saying, like we should be he's
not popular, but he's president of the United States for 3 more years. Yeah. I promised you we'd play the nauseating sound of him saying it was time for the country to move on from Epstein. Here he is.
I think it's really time for the country to get onto something else, really. Now that nothing came out about me, other than it was a conspiracy against me, literally, by Epstein and other people. But I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
I can't even.
Nothing came out about him except for the 5,000 mentions to him directly and the 38,000 references to him peripherally with news clippings, etc. So,
No, I mean, he would like to change the subject. It would be easier to do if his minions in the House aren't about to call or aren't going to have Hillary and Bill testify. They're going to do that now. So, you can't have it both ways. He's such an idiot. I mean, if you really wanted to go away, do not have every media agency now primed in a couple weeks to cover it for a few more weeks.
Well, let's move on to Minnesota.
Yes,
supposedly
news today.
700 fewer ICE agents are going to be there. That's good news?
It is good news, but proof is in the pudding. So, obviously Homan, who came in, and I've been very clear about him. I've known him for a long time. He is absolutely conservative. Most of the people in this room would not like him, but he's an institutionalist, and he had made it clear he didn't like what he was seeing in the streets of Minnesota and had been in a sort of war with, gosh, can you believe
Bovino?
it?
Is that
Yeah,
his name?
Bovino, yeah. So that's a sort of detente, and I think a sort of beginning to be an off-ramp, because the White House, the White House hasn't grown morals. It hasn't been more law-abiding. It looks at the polling, and this has been wildly unpopular because of the killing of 2 Americans. He did say as he was exiting, we're going to continue to do these kinds of raids, but I think they're going to be more focused, and I think that we won't see this again as we saw it in an American city, which is good. Because
I hope you're
think,
right, but they still have 4 times as many federal agents in Minneapolis as there are Minneapolis police officers.
I know. It's still
huge.
outnumbered, and I do think about the long-term consequences of this in terms of that sort of nexus of local, state, and federal cooperation that we had seen in this sort of post 9/11 world. It wasn't always perfect, but boy, I mean, across the country, local and state law enforcement and public safety entities don't have a lot of confidence in federal authorities, including the FBI and including the Joint Terrorism Task Forces.
I don't know how many people saw it, but Renee Good's brothers, the woman that was killed, were speaking in Congress, and so was the woman who was pulled out of the car, who said
she was incredible.
She was was screaming, and they cut open her seatbelt, and she was disabled on her way to a doctor's appointment. I thought that was pretty impressive.
That's what those narratives are. I mean, you cannot fight the power of video, and I think that's what ICE was a little slow to. And obviously, the administration, wanted to slander these people that they killed and these Americans that they killed. So like if you compare, looking at the numbers, I forget the exact number, but I think we're close to 10 or 12 ICE detainees have died in detention, and 1 or 2 of them by coroners have been determined that they were homicides. So something really, I mean, when this is over, what we're going to learn is going to be more horrifying. But one of the reasons why you can't get people out onto the street about that is because there are no videos. And I just think like the sort of what happened in Milwaukee was every person was told, don't just protest, have purpose, take videos everywhere. And that's why we got all those different shots to counter the slander that the White House came out with, and that Vance and Noem and Miller came out with 5 minutes after the murder.
I want to promise the listeners, I'm going to calm down at some point during the show, but not quite yet.
Okay.
Who was not at the hearing when Good's 2 brothers testified yesterday? There was not one Republican who cared enough to hear from the siblings of a woman who was killed by a federal officer. Not one Republican went to the damn hearing.
That party is not going to save you now.
It is incredible.
It is. No, I mean, I was going to say at least they didn't show up and harass them, but
what's the damage? Just sit there and say we're sorry for your loss.
Because they are. I now believe this, that they are so high on their supply that they do not see what is happening in America. They do not see. I mean, of power. They don't see how unpopular he is, how they're losing all of these. They're just the leadership, at least. I think you're starting to see some Republicans say, like DeSantis is really getting out there. Like this is going to be, it's going to be nuts. He's just like, we need to wake up. This is the at least 2026 is going to be ugly. That assumes, there's going to be shenanigans. Obviously, the president is telling us this. So the victory, if there is a victory towards towards norms, right? That's what 2026 is about. It is going to come because it's too big to steal. I think I saw someone saying.
Well,
I think that's right. The numbers.
We're going to talk with him again tomorrow. But his theory is that the vote has to be massively in favor of
right.
Democrats.
And the interesting thing in this redistricting that say happened in Texas, what people think, they got more Republican districts. Well, they got more Republican districts because they made solidly Republican districts less solid. When you get a 20-point swing, you're losing your seat. If you're a Republican, they never envisioned this could happen. And the Republicans in Texas are walking around saying, that was probably a mistake. I think I think overall the Democrats have more solidly Democratic seats.
Can I just say one thing about this? I don't know if you saw the interview yesterday. A reporter, it's a one-on-one, so it wasn't, one of those pool things. Yeah. Says to Trump, well, what do you think about the Democrat who won the state Senate seat in Texas? You had won by 17 points. He said, didn't know anything about it. And he didn't know anything about it except he tweeted it.
Yes,
whatever he
exactly.
does, his unconditional and total support for the woman who got crushed in the election. Other than that, he doesn't know anything about it. I don't even know what Texas is, much less.
Exactly. Well, because nothing bad that happens is his fault, and everything. Well, if you could say that anything is good, but he, he has touched, embraced. No joking around the third rail. We know that they are going to try to do something antagonistic and hostile, and I don't know what it looks like in 2026, and there should be no surprises.
So let's. We were reading this morning. Savannah Guthrie. People may know she's been a longtime host of the Today Show. Was supposed to cover the Olympics. Now she's not. Her 84-year-old mother was apparently dragged out of her home 2:00 in the morning.
Horrible.
The latest is the son-in-law is the suspect.
Well, that's according to one outlet.
I missed that. That's so interesting. Obviously there were rumors about...
Savannah's sister Annie is married to this guy that they're looking at.
That's not from police, by the way.
No, it's from TMZ.
Yeah, well, from TMZ.
TMZ. I have to say, TMZ is sometimes better than the police.
Sometimes it is. It's like the National Enquirer.
I know. They have when you only look at one story. Okay, this is horrifying. I don't even my brain can't go there. Obviously. Reporters or public figures are not just worried about themselves, they're worried about their families. We've had horrible deaths of famous people's families. Michael Jordan comes to mind. The police have been, this is consistent with where the police have been. The police have been very consistent in saying that they did not think it was related to Savannah's fame or someone hating her because she's a reporter or whatever. And so your TMZ news is consistent with
we don't
that.
know.
But he was the first one. I do know, just because he was the last one to see her alive, so that would be natural.
The daughter, Annie, was supposedly the last one to see her alive.
Well, they drove her home or something.
No, he drove her home.
I thought it was the daughter.
No, he drove her home, and so was the last one to see her alive. And so that is, that he would be a natural person to look at, but I had not seen, I don't read TMZ daily, although I do read them.
First I turned to.
The breakdown of the Beckham family is why I watch. I just can't get enough of that on TMZ. Read it. If you don't know my reference, go Google.
Is his name Brooklyn, the kid?
Brooklyn Beckham. It's a tragedy.
Okay. So can we stay on Guthrie for a second? I know you're not a criminologist, but I have two reactions to the nonstop coverage of this. One, how horrible I'd feel if someone I loved had disappeared and nobody in the media cared about it. And with all due respect to the mother, the only reason we know this is because her daughter is famous. So that's one reaction. The flip reaction, though, is because of that feeling, will it force the media to pay more attention to people who are missing, who maybe are people of color or poor people who are don't have the something?
Obviously, I think because of the narrative of journalists are under attack, and one of the country's most famous reporters hosts, and that it being a family member in such a weird way, like taken in the middle of the night. There, we haven't heard anything was stolen. I think obviously most stories can't compete with that, but I do, and if it ends up being a family member, then the story is just so horrific in a variety of ways. But if it's the third possibility, which is sort of abuse of an elderly, like another, I mean, yes, we need to talk about that, because I mean, I say, like, sometimes I'll be with my parents who are 90. They're not, but like I'll look at their phone and like they're getting so many texts of, someone has figured out that they're on Medicare or like whatever, and press this button and give us your credit card because whatever. And like, you just want, my parents are pretty discerning and don't get it, but like, people sometimes aren't discerning, or they're lonely, or they whatever. And it's just outrageous.
Okay.
Send Marjorie those texts. She'll press the button.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
I forget it.
I mean, they are constant from everything. I mean, half your calls these days are spam calls trying to sell you something.
Yeah, apparently I was very close to falling for the Easy Pass one, which was going on in the stage. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
I was very close to pressing that button and giving my credit card because I'm like so law-abiding. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't pay my Easy Pass.
Okay. Washington Post has been totally decimated.
Yeah.
I think someone described it as a bloodbath there.
1/3, yeah.
1/3 of the staff is gone. So Bezos,
I have so many thoughts.
Go ahead.
I mean, I have... I just looked at the charts. Bezos and his editor... First of all, Bezos has said nothing, the big wimp, because he's so busy promoting the Melania thing. They claim that this is because it's old media and they need to pivot and it's a restart, whatever. Look at the New York Times. So similar newspapers approaching the Trump era. New York Times diversifies. Honestly, what gets me into the New York Times every morning? I'm pathetic. Wordle, right? I mean, I'm opening up the New York Times, but then I ease into the front page and whatever. But they diversified content. They got into games. They started to do videos, short videos, all the stuff of engaging an audience that is absorbing information differently without... people have complaints about the New York Times, but without changing its basic, both local, everyone reads it for New York, national and international. Okay, go down to the Washington Post. Bezos buys it as a ego project, or maybe to help save it, because he worked with Marty Baron very well. Trump comes in, he, finds this new wife, they suck up to Trump. And do you know why the Washington Post is failing? Because when that suck-up started to happen, including the Melania documentary, people were like, we're not interested in supporting a newspaper that's going to be a pawn of the White House. And he will not admit that. He will not admit, if you actually look at the subscriptions and the support for the Washington Post that they now have to fire reporters for, it is because of his political decisions. And he takes the... There are newspapers, the Boston Globe, the New York Times, the Wall Street, they are adapting to changes, and local media in our culture and how we absorb information. This is solely on Bezos.
Well, a former reporter who's now at the Atlantic, Ashley Parker, wrote this morning, decimation is the plan.
Yeah.
There you go.
And you know something? It's ironic. The Wall Street Journal is the second great. I mean, the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Globe is a smaller paper, obviously. Paper. Those two are standing. That's Rupert Murdoch that runs Fox News. So there's a certain irony. I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, we've been speaking with Juliette Kayyem, national security expert, former Assistant Secretary for Homeland Security under President Barack Obama, faculty chair of the Homeland Security program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, and CNN as well. After a quick break, special treat this Wednesday, some live music here at the library, a mix of jazz and country. That's next.
With recent grads facing a tough job market, young people and even colleges are asking,
what does it mean to be educated?
I'm Kurt Carapezza. On our podcast, College Uncovered, we hear how liberal arts programs are weaving career preparation directly into the curriculum.
The number one reason why students enroll in higher ed is to get a good or better job.
Hear the whole conversation on College Uncovered, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Support for GBH comes from you. And Babson College, where you can advance your career with an MBA or specialized master's at the school ranked number 2 best college in the United States by the Wall Street Journal 2025. Babson.edu/grad programs. And Fixed Dental, offering permanent teeth-on implants, customized in their laboratory, enabling their doctors and technicians to oversee every aspect of the smile design. Learn more about all the treatments offered at Fixed at fixeddental.com.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio and GBH and NEPM. Jim Browning, Marjorie Regan, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. I'm trying, Jim. I couldn't let you get away with it twice.
Well, it's not hour 2. It's not hour 2 yet.
Ah! What is it?
It's hour 3/4.
Oh, it's hour and 3/4. Oh, whoops.
Marjorie's upset because in the new format, she doesn't get to introduce the show.
Go ahead.
At 12:06.
Go ahead.
And now she totally humiliated herself.
I'm humiliated.
Totally.
Okay, go ahead. We want the music.
Thank you. I
go
will.
Ahead.
Hi. She's Marjorie Egan. I'm Jim Browning. We're live from the BPL. Is that correct? Yes. Streaming youtube.com/GBH News. Tomorrow, Marjorie would like you to know that MIT President Sally Kornbluth will join us in Brighton. Friday, Marjorie would like you to know that Livingston Taylor will talk to us, perform, etc. And Mayor Wu will be with us for an hour on February 10th at the library. Join live at the library for a rare live music Wednesday performance. Farayi Malek is a jazz and contemporary composer and educator at Berklee College of Music, New England Conservatory. Farayi is a show at the Umbrella Arts Center as part of an Umbrella concert series in partnership with the Salt Lick Incubator. We'll tell you a lot about that in a few minutes. On February 11th. Headlining is someone you may have heard of, 7-time Grammy, Emmy, and Academy Award-winning Jean-Baptiste, and there'll be other Salt Lick talent there too. We're also joined at the desk by Eileen Williston. Hello, Eileen. Nice to meet you. Executive Director of the Umbrella Arts Center. The February show is sold out. Their next one is March 27th. For information for the next Salt Lick Sessions concert at the Umbrella on March 27th and all future Umbrella concert series dates, visit saltlickincubator.org or the umbrellaarts.org/ forget that. Just Google the damn thing. Before we speak with Eileen and Farayi, let's hear some music. Farayi performing with her bandmates, Every Heartbeat Welcome. Is that the first song? Oh, it's not. Prayer for the People? Prayer for the People. Welcome.
So much trouble in the land, oh Lord, heal this broken land, broken land, broken land. So much trouble in the land, oh dying in the streets, oh Lord, take them to thy home, to thy home, to thy home. So many dying in the streets, oh Lord, take them to thy home, to thy home, oh Lord. land, knowledge to this land. So much confusion in the land. Oh Lord, bring knowledge to this lands, to these lands, to these lands. So much trouble in the land. Oh Lord, oh Lord, heal this broken land, Lord, broken land, Lord. So much trouble in the land, Lord, trouble in the land. Heal this broken land, broken land, broken land.
Wow.
Farayi Malek has a show at the Umbrella Arts Center as part of the Umbrella Concert Series with Salt Lake Incubator, February 11th. It's sold out, but if you want more info about what's going on up there, visit saltlakeincubator.org. That was incredible. When did you write that song? Sorry? When did you write that song?
You have to put headset on, I'm sorry. It's this microphone thing.
Yeah.
Farayi,
yeah.
you know how that works? There we are, okay.
Before, I want you to introduce your bandmates, but before then, when did you write that song?
I wrote that song about a year ago. January 2025.
Who are these people?
This is Young Chae Jung on bass and Jacob Means on mandolin.
You guys are wonderful. Thank you.
That was incredible. I mean, all I'm thinking about is obviously it resonates so well with what's going on right now in a very real way. What was going on a year ago?
So I wrote it, actually, the day that I wrote it was the day that all the fires were going through the Los Angeles area. And I find myself writing in prayer oftentimes. I'll find myself singing in a moment of prayer, and sometimes I'll hit record on my phone, and then it turns into a song. So that was what this moment was with this particular piece. And the lyrics are always changing and developing as the world is changing.
Unfortunately, you could write that song every day. That's the part of the problem. So hello to you, Eileen.
Hello.
Tell people what the Umbrella Arts Center is.
The Umbrella Arts Center is an interdisciplinary arts center in Concord, Massachusetts. We have a robust education program for toddlers to seniors, galleries, more than 50 artist studios, and a robust performing arts program with an amazing stage company and concert series.
So we'll describe in a minute what Salt Lake Incubator is. And by the way, Roger Brown, formerly head of Berkeley, is here, who's obviously the driving force. Liza Levy, who's the president, is also here. We're thrilled to have them. How'd this connection come about, Eileen?
Sure. Salt Lake and the Umbrella were introduced through some common friends and supporters, and the synergy was just immediate between the two organizations. We both have a really strong commitment to supporting emerging artists, Salt Lake through their young musicians, the Umbrella through artist residencies across disciplines.
Farayi, explain a little bit more broadly what Salt Lake does for independent, rising stars like you.
Yeah, so Salt Lake Incubator is an incredible nonprofit organization that helps emerging artists in a variety of ways, one of which is their grants. So I'm a grant winner for Salt Lake Incubator. They also have the Salt Lake Sessions, which is a video series, but really they're there to support us in any way that we really need.
The business side, the artistic side, like everything, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what they've done for me over the past 2 years. They've really helped me make connections with a lot of folks and really kind of get my grounding in this industry.
And I know you praise the advice, but I have to say, when I read that Liza proposed to you in your EP that you cover Whitney Houston, I would have gone to another organization. And then I listened to the song.
Yeah.
I Want to Dance with Somebody. Was that intimidating? It was so incredible, your cover. Was that intimidating?
Yes, it was very intimidating. Liza proposed a list of 50 songs, and that was on there. I think we maybe came up with the list together. And I thought, Whitney Houston, no way, are you crazy? No way. But then we worked out an arrangement with my band, and I just love singing it. And yeah, I think it worked out.
It did work out.
It's amazing.
It did work out.
Thank you.
So the idea up in Umbrella is you have a headliner sort of, and then a bunch of other people together. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, sure. Well, with Salt Lake Incubator, every year we do 3 concerts. 2 of them in November and March feature only Salt Lake Incubator artists. And then in the wintertime, next week, every year we have a concert that's really unique and incredible, where we have Salt Lake artists on stage with a headliner. Our first concert was Brandi Carlile last year. We were so thrilled to welcome Sheryl Crow, and next week, unbelievably, we'll have John Baptiste.
He's on the board, right? Is he not part of? He's on the board of the Salt Lake Incubator. It's pretty incredible.
Farayi, one of the headlines that talks about a jazz and country coming together in your debut album. Is that unusual, jazz and country? To me it is, but maybe I just don't know enough about it.
Well, to me, I don't think it's that unusual, because jazz and country are both have very similar roots in the blues. And so I grew up in rural Idaho playing bluegrass, fiddle, and country music, and southern gospel music, and went on to study jazz for years. But I see the commonalities, and a lot of the divisions in American music are I don't think necessary. I think we can come together through music. And so for me, being mixed race, being from a rural part of the country, and bringing together these different musical sides of myself just feels very authentic to me. And I'm excited to share.
Rural Idaho?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When did you come to the big city? Any big city? How old were you?
17.
What was that like?
Culture shock.
Which big city was it?
Boston.
Boston. It was here. Okay. So I'm always interested in how it happened for them.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about playing fiddle when you were a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did it go from that to this?
Yeah, so I went to a performing arts school in high school, and I studied jazz there, and they just kind of helped me on the trajectory to go to New England Conservatory, which is where I did my undergrad, and then my master's at Berkeley. So I just had a really great support system of incredible teachers that guided me and helped me along the way.
Because the conservatory is no longer just classical music like we always think of it. It's got a bunch of things going on there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do students worry about the kinds of challenges that Salt Lake tries to address when they are your students and they hope to become performers and make a living? How daunting is that for people? All the stuff you got to do and learn and know to succeed and make a living.
Yeah, I think that they definitely have some concerns. I know a lot of my students do, but I think they also have grown up in this ever-changing and evolving world of technology.
Right, of course.
So I think they're more used to like the changes of AI and things like that than even I am. So I think they're ready for the challenge.
So many times we have musicians coming on here. They went to Berkeley, they went to Boston Conservatory, they went to the Conservatory, and they all announce that as soon as they graduate, they're leaving town. So what can be done about that?
Well, I think, these kinds of resources where, we're providing pathways and scaffolding and, also showing the next generation of artists, the ones that you teach, the ones who are in our communities coming to these concerts, that, there are pathways to become an artist and create this beautiful music.
What are you going to, before you rejoin your bandmates here, what are you performing next?
So the next tune I'll be performing is called Every Heartbeat, and it's the last single that I released back in November.
Do you want to gently put your headset down when you go back to join them?
Sure.
Can you? Yeah, now if you can. Eileen, do you want to name the other performers who are going to be on this bill next week?
Absolutely.
From Salt Lake, yeah.
Next week, in addition to Farayi, we have the amazing bands Couch and Melt. And if I may also, in March, we're going to have two incredible artists, Claire Ernst and Danny Offline. It's going to be an amazing
There's
night.
still tickets for the March thing?
Still tickets for the March. Next week is sold out, but plenty for March.
Marjorie and I will be there next week.
I know.
I'm
very, very excited
about that. I say, okay, Farayi is back with her bandmates. Welcome back.
I came through a valley, cold one winter night, and shining on a hill, a yellow beam of light. Gazing in my wonder,
vocalist Farayi Malek. We're also joined by Eileen Williston, Executive Director of the Umbrella Arts Center. Their website is theumbrellaarts.org/Salt Lick Sessions.
That was fabulous.
That was unbelievable.
So
unbelievable.
really
Up
great.
next, we're going to be joined by Howard Bryant. He's got a great new book about Paul Robeson and Jackie Robinson. He's next on Boston Public Radio.
For that next birthday, holiday, or special occasion, you can give a standout gift: a GBH membership. Thousands of hours of your favorite PBS shows, event deals, and local business discounts. Learn more at gbh.org/gift membership.
Funding for our programs comes from you. And PNC Bank. Brilliantly boring since 1865. Proud to support GBH and the Boston Speakers Series. More at pnc.com. And Brown University Pre-College Programs, where high school students experience college life, nurture their diverse interests, and make friends and memories that last a lifetime. Applications available online at precollege.brown.edu.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Welcome back to BPR on 89.7. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Tomorrow, we're going to be joined, not here though, but in Brighton by MIT President Sally Kornbluth. And then on Friday, we're going to be back at the library with Livingston Taylor. February 10th, we're going to be joined by the Mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu. Hello again, Jim.
Was Farayi unbelievable?
Unbelievable.
Was she spectacular?
Unbelievable. I've got her on
God.
Spotify. I'm all excited. I can't wait to listen to the whole thing.
Can't wait for next week, too. We're joined now live at the library by Howard Bryant. Howard's a longtime sports journalist, NPR contributor, Western Mass resident, prolific author. His latest is this incredible story of two giants from American history, Jackie Robinson and Paul Robeson. I said to Howard when he said hello a minute ago, Marjorie, I'm embarrassed by how little I knew. And you know what he said back to me? Same. So don't feel so bad. Robinson, of course, first black American to play in Major League Baseball in the modern era. Robeson, bass, baritone, concert artist, actor, professional football player, activist. His activism led to the ire of the infamous House Committee on Un-American Activities for comments he made in Paris in 1948, which ended up having a reluctant Jackie Robinson appearing before the committee to comment on that in 1949.
I've been asked to express my views on Paul Robeson's statement in Paris to the effect that American Negroes would refuse to fight in any war against Russia because we love Russia so much. I haven't any comment to make except that, on that statement, except that if Mr. Robeson actually made it, it sounds very silly to me. But he has a right to his personal views, and if he wants to sound silly when he expresses them in public, that's his business and not mine.
Robinson went on to say that black Americans have invested too much in the country to, quote, throw it away because of a siren song sung in bass. Here's more of that testimony from Robinson.
I don't pretend to be an expert on communism or any other kind of politicalism, but you can put me down as being an expert on being a colored American with 30 years of experience at it. And just like any other colored person with any sense enough to look around him and understand what he sees. I know that life in these United States can be mighty tough for people who are a little different from the majority in their skin color or the way they worship their God or the way they spell their names.
Howard Bryant lays out the history and significance of these two men then and now in his latest terrific book, Kings and Pawns, Jackie Robinson and Paul Robeson in America. Howard, congratulations. Great to see you again.
Thank you. It's good to see you guys again.
Yeah, great
right?
to see you too. And congratulations on a great piece of reporting, a great piece of writing. Tell people, though, how Jackie Robinson, which most of us know him from the phenomenal career in baseball, how he wound up talking in front of Congress about Paul Robeson.
Yeah, well, the answer is two words: Branch Rickey. Branch Rickey was the president of the Brooklyn Dodgers. He's the one who was credited. Of course, he's the one who brought Jackie to the big leagues, and Jackie felt an unbelievable amount of loyalty to Ricky. And Jackie was not a political figure at that time. He didn't want to do it. He had no interest. He thought it was a lose-lose situation, especially to have, the previous most famous black man in the world be testifying or testified against by the current, which was Jackie. And so you've got these two gigantic black figures in the middle of the Cold War that as that dynamic unfolded. And it reminded me a lot of, so funny, every time you're working on these projects, you're writing a paragraph and it's like, well, this feels like today, this feels like today, this feels like today.
Yeah.
And there was a moment where, where we are right now, so many people, especially people of color, in the black community, there's a great conversation about whether this is our fight or not. That Donald Trump was elected twice, and if you look at the numbers, we didn't elect him, you elected him, and so this is not our battle. And I think that was very, very similar to Jackie, and Jackie's position was, no, I have a stake in this. This is mine too, and this is something that, whether it was a Cold War, USA versus Russia, et cetera, all of that stuff, that he really believed that he had a say, and he felt that it was really important that African Americans showed that they were loyal to this country as well, which Robeson thought was a setup. And so everybody is sort of being manipulated by all of these different sides.
When you said you constantly think about the parallels, when I'm reading it, I'm saying the House Un-American Activities Committee of 75 years ago is the Oval Office of 2026. Explain what Robeson said in Paris in 48 that led to this committee wanting Robinson to essentially trash him. Though I wouldn't say he went that far, but that was the goal. What did he say in Paris?
No, April of 1949, he speaks at the the Paris Peace Conference, which was derided as communist propaganda anyway. But he speaks at this conference, and he essentially echoed what Muhammad Ali would say 20 years later during the Vietnam War, which was, I have no conflict with the Soviet Union. I mean, it's the same as what Ali said, no Viet Cong ever called me the N-word, right? And so, however, it came across to the Associated Press and the newspapers across America the next day that Robeson said, unthinkable for black people to fight against the Soviet Union in the event of a war between the two.
Can you explain? Well, I'm assuming, Marjorie and I talked a lot about what we didn't know this morning. We assume that people at least know a little bit about Jackie Robinson. My guess is there are a lot of people listening who know almost nothing about Paul Robeson.
And how huge.
How big was he? And describe a little more thoroughly than I did who he was.
Yeah, well, you could make an argument, as I do in the book, that Paul Robeson in the 1920s he's the most famous black American in the world. We like to talk about the World Series and the World Championship, but no, Robeson is a world figure. He's the greatest college football player of all time in 1917, 1918. College football. He plays in this little, startup called the National Football League a couple of years later. We talk about Jackie Robinson integrating the major leagues in 1947. Well, Paul Robeson integrated Broadway in 1943 with Othello. In fact, the run-up to the Broadway production was here over at the Brattle and the year before, in 1942 in Cambridge. And so, in addition to that, he's a lawyer. Columbia educated. He is a concert singer, he's an opera singer, he's a stage actor, he's a Hollywood actor. He is a titanic figure, really what you would consider to be a Renaissance man in every sense.
Yeah, a talented like in everything, valedictorian too.
That's
at
right.
Rutgers, I read. Just so people will recognize his voice, I think, because the thing you always hear him singing is Old Man River, but this is a different one. This is this labor protest song, Joe Hill, his recording for the 1940s of Paul Robeson singing it.
I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night, alive as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, says he. I never died, says he.
Can you believe that's real?
No, I mean,
I am so glad you
incredible.
played that, because when you said we're going to hear it, I thought you were going to ask me to sing it. I'm going to come here close to that.
Well,
gosh.
but also the context too of the time, that there were a lot of people who thought, especially people in the labor movement, who thought, we always remember the Warren Beatty movie, Reds, years ago, about people thinking the Soviet Union was the new Nirvana and for black Americans, because there were equal rights there before things went south.
Well, that's right, and the idea of equal rights, the Soviet experiment, was one of fairness, and supposedly, and this is, of course, this battle between propaganda and reality. And one of the things that I found fascinating about this was, because of the Cold War, because of the international tensions, we have, one, erased Robeson, but also decoupled this piece of history from the Great Migration. I think that the instinct was the same for African Americans to find a place where we'd be accepted. And there were a lot of people who came, especially coming out of World War I and World War II, but especially World War I, when you are asking black people to fight for the country just like everybody else has. But when you come back from World War I, the violence toward veterans, so much of post 9/11 America today is thank you for your service, and we are restoring the dignity of veterans and the Tuskegee Airmen and everyone who had fought in Vietnam, etc. But at that time, if you were a black veteran and you were walking around in a uniform, you were a target. And it was the same in 1918, 1919, 1920, and it was the same in 1945. And this was one of the things that had activated Robeson to also think that there needed to be an alternative.
So what was the impact on Robeson of Robinson's testimony before that committee, and how immediate was it, Howard?
Well, the one thing is that Jackie's testimony did not destroy Paul Robeson's career. Paul Robeson's career was in trouble immediately following World War II because of the escalation between the two nations. But what Jackie's testimony did do is it unleashed the more violent, more aggressive forces against him. And 6 weeks after Robinson's testimony, there are two bloody riots in Peekskill, New York, when Robeson wants to give concerts up in New York, right? It's about 35 minutes outside of New York City. And so by having one black person testify against another, and in addition to Jackie having the black establishment isolate Robeson, the NAACP, the Urban League, a lot of the black leadership, they distanced themselves from Robeson as well. It really left it to be sort of open season on him. And then I was going to say one last thing, sorry about that.
Go ahead.
And then on top of that, then you have the federal government getting involved, and by the next year refuse to renew his passport. So he's essentially under house arrest. He's not able to leave the country for almost a decade.
With no legal basis.
Completely
for doing
unconstitutional,
that, yeah.
But that was the times. And I think that's when you work on these books, one of the things that you're really trying to do, especially when you're dealing with history, something that happened 80 years ago, how do I convey what that climate was? If you're of a certain generation, you know what the Cold War and what McCarthyism and what all those things were. Me personally, I'm a Cold War kid, but I'm younger. So for me, the Cold War was international. It was the Olympics. It was the US, USSR hockey, that stuff, and the missile gap and the day after and all that. But this was domestic. This was sort of the idea that there was an infiltration of this country, of a subversive force, and that's how people saw Robeson.
You will use the term two-ness, and I believe Du Bois was the person that came up with double consciousness, which is a variation on a theme, or not a variation on a theme. What did you mean? What were you saying?
What I mean by that was something that both of these men really dealt with. I think that the point, or one of the themes of the book, was how do you have these two men who did everything that this country asked of them, and in a segregated country, to have them be so, by the end of their lives, so disillusioned. And that idea of two-ness was, is it possible for you to be a citizen, to be patriotic, to be seen as one, as equal, while at the same time living in a segregated society and having this ongoing dissent and critique of the country?
Tell us about Jackie Robinson's wife's role in all this.
Rachel Robinson is an unbelievable figure, and every time I think about her, and the few times that I get to see her now...
Was she like 100?
She is 103. She'll be 104 in July.
Wow.
And she's up there on the Upper East Side, and I got to go to the foundation last week, so I got to see her son David. So Rachel, the thing that Rachel really did, in addition to being side by side with Jackie and rewriting that speech, his speech to HUAC was initially written by Branch Rickey and Branch Rickey's associate Arthur Mann. She got involved and she reads the speech and she's like, this is not the way we talk, this is not how we sound, this is not the way we want to represent ourselves. But what she really did, to me, the biggest thing, was Jackie was a bare-knuckle guy and he did not have a lot of friends. And by the time that Jackie had retired, baseball wanted nothing to do with him. I mean, that was one of the other themes of the book, is that we talk about April 15th, 1947 being the day that everything changed for everybody, but it didn't for Jackie. It was very, very difficult for him. Baseball did not want to integrate, and as we know here, that by the time Jackie retired, 3 teams still hadn't integrated: the Phillies, the Tigers, and the Red Sox. And so he went his whole career without the entire league being integrated. So what Rachel really did was, after Jackie passes away, she restores him. She's the one, with her beauty and diplomacy and the respect that she had. She's the one who goes to the Dodgers. She's the one who goes to MLB. She's the one who, if it's not for Rachel and the respect that people have for her, I do not believe that we would be celebrating Jackie Robinson today.
Did she or their son read the book?
I hadn't spoken. I doubt Rachel read the book, but David has the book. He did not read it. He and I had a good exchange last week at the Jackie Robinson Museum, and he was asking, this is not a gloom and doom story, is it? And I said, absolutely not.
It's a little because these men that were so incredibly talented, incredibly brilliant, that things at the end of their lives were tough.
True, but also extremely inspiring.
Extremely inspiring.
And that's the thing about Jackie that I really loved about him. And Rachel gave an interview in 1976 where she said, we really did get 2 pieces of bad advice. The first was supporting Richard Nixon in 1960.
Which Robinson did.
Robinson did, absolutely. Yeah. And he did so because he had a meeting with JFK and just didn't believe that Kennedy cared enough about black people. The second piece of advice that Rachel thought was bad advice was testifying against Robeson.
Yeah.
You know
what I thought?
Go ahead.
Just a really quick thing. I'm sorry.
No, we're both so excited about this book.
Well, at the beginning, you talk about athletes then and athletes now. He's this huge star. He's working 3 days a week selling RCA Victor TVs at the local the Sunset of Lives.
They were making $80 million a year back
but it
then.
was just so startling to read that. Of course, he wasn't making that kind of money, but still.
One of the things when I'm reading the book, we're obviously talking to Howard Bryant. Well, I don't know how obvious it is. Kings and Pawns, Jackie Robinson and Paul Robeson in America. You got to get it. It's eye-opening and really important. I'm saying to myself, I can't wait till the moment when they meet. That's going to be a great.
Still waiting.
Exactly. So that's number one. They never did. Also, when I said to you before that I learned a lot. I know Marjorie said she did too. That I didn't know. There are also things that I thought I knew that I didn't. For example, the little I knew about Branch Rickey is this heroic figure who had the courage to bring a black player into the major leagues when nobody wanted a black player in the major leagues. But he is a much more troubling historical figure as time goes along, no?
Yeah, well, he's interesting. I mean, he's certainly troubling in the ways that he didn't want black players. Yeah. He did not want to integrate. What he did, he wanted to integrate, but he didn't want to integrate with black Americans because he felt that would upset segregation. It's very, very similar to the integration of Levittown, of those planned communities coming out of World War II, where Bill Levitt had once said that I can solve a housing problem or I can solve a racial problem, but I can't do both. So Rickey's plan was to go to Mexico, the Dominican Republic, Cuba, Venezuela, to go find players of color so they could come in, they could get work visas and then go home like a lot of the players do today. And instead, what he found was that the best players, the best black players, happened to be where? Here, in the Negro Leagues. And so that sort of shifted. But the other thing about it, too, was that Robeson spoke to the baseball owners in 1943 during the winter meetings. And he addressed them about integration. This is 4 years before Jackie's debut. And when that meeting ended, The commissioner at Kennesaw Mountain Landis and a lot of the baseball owners, Tom Yawkey was there, Eddie Collins was there, the Wrigley, so many of the famous names were there. They all want to end the meeting, but there's one guy who says, are we going to even discuss the delegation that came here today? So that is the first, and those transcripts had not been available. They are now at the Baseball Hall of Fame, so you can actually read what was being said. And what I loved about it was that people are complicated, and that it was the first time that you can see that Branch Rickey's up to something. Before that, you didn't quite know, because everything came through the newspapers, clippings here and there, that maybe he's going to form a separate black league. But this meeting, when you read the transcript, and the transcript is full in the book, it's the first time that you go, oh, he's about to do something pretty remarkable.
You said a minute ago they never met, and we do learn that in the book. There's a related thing. There's this great sound from an ESPN documentary called Disciples of Jackie Robinson from 2004, in which Paul Robeson Jr. talks about an exchange with his dad during the height of the investigation. Just listen to this great sound.
And I remember asking Dad, look, get me Jackie's autograph, please. And so Dad told me, well, I can't do that. I said, what do you mean you can't do that? I mean, get his autograph. He said, no, I can't do that. And he explained, he said, I'm now being attacked in the media as an enemy of the state, as a communist, as a traitor. And he said to me, if Jackie had his picture taken of me, which is what would happen, he might lose his career. I'm not going to put Jackie in that position, even for you.
Even for you.
Even for you.
You know, when I heard those words, attacked to the media as an enemy of the state and a communist, you alluded before to the parallels to now, and enemies within and enemy of the state and communists. We're hearing that all the time
so
now,
much
too.
of the same language.
Yeah.
And I try to explain, once again, when you're talking about doing these projects, you're trying to say, okay, how do I convey to an audience in 2026 what it was like to be hounded, what it was like to be for the word communism to be the most weaponized word. You could lose your career, you would lose everything. And one of the things that I was really wrestling with was, how do you make that come through? And especially when you think about someone like Robeson, who the State Department took his passport and did not allow him to travel. It would be the equivalent today of the current administration taking, if you're a Democrat, or if you criticize the administration, that you're not allowed to take a trip to Hawaii. Or a trip to Europe because of your political beliefs.
You know, one of the things, Howard Bryant, I wonder about, and you address this, but I think listeners are probably thinking too, why later in life did Robinson not say that he regretted what he did, and why didn't amount to what I once thought it was?
Yeah, I think there was a great deal of disappointment in Paul Robeson in terms of really being a man without a country. I think that there are two moments. There's the Robinson testimony in 1949, and then 7 years later, when Robeson is trying to have his passport restored, he meets HUAC, June 12th, 1956, and it's an incredibly contentious hearing. And one of the representatives says, or one of the committee members says, well, if you love Russia so much, why don't you go there? Why don't you go and live there? And he said, well, because my father was a slave, and and I own a piece of this country. But the other piece of that, and no one's going to take that from me. But the other piece of it too was the revelation, the Khrushchev revelations that Joseph Stalin had been a butcher and had murdered millions of his own people. And they asked Robeson about that and why he didn't denounce Stalin. And I think the reason was, a lot of it was just pride. It was stubborn pride, and it was also not giving the satisfaction to a lot of these segregationists who felt like the United States didn't have anything to apologize for. And I think that, was it a misstep? I think you could probably call it that, but he chose not to do that because his argument was, well, we never apologize for anything, and who's going to apologize to us for what we've been through? And so there's that moment of real defiance. And in Jackie's case, I felt like, once again, that sort of stubbornness, not wanting to admit that, that ball player, the ball player, the fight that you have. And I feel like he just really, I think he believed what he said, and I think he was that, as Rachel would put it, my country, right or wrong. And I think that's as close as he got to saying it was a mistake to testify. He did say that if asked to do it again, I would say no.
Well, Howard Bryant, congratulations.
Whoa. Oh, I'm not done yet.
Oh, you're not?
Oh, no.
I'm sorry.
Wait, I have a couple. I
was looking at the clock, but I'll
ignore
it.
I know, but we're okay for a few minutes. We're okay for a few minutes, right? Fine.
Thank you,
Can we
Jamie.
talk about current events just for a second? We talked the other day, I don't remember who we were talking to, about this unimaginable thing where they're crowbarring plaques off the wall at this slavery exhibit in Philadelphia. We know it's happening at the Smithsonian. We know what happened when the drunken woman abuser at the Department of so-called War decides to erase black history in the military. I mean, we talk about how much, we do this a lot on the show, not just when you're here, by the way, how embarrassing it is. I mean, you know, when it started, when we learned about the Tulsa Massacre, and one of the most incredible things after we had to admit we knew almost nothing about it, you remember a young black man called in from Tulsa and said he didn't know about the Tulsa Massacre until he heard about it on our show. We have 3 more years of Trump and 3 more years of erasing a history.
Well, but
what
you had,
happens?
You had 70 years of erasing Robeson before Trump. So it's not as though it's a new thing. It's all part of a continuum. And that is what happens when you don't protect your history. And this is when you don't know your history. And the number of people that I had spoken to when they said, hey, you know, what's your next book about? And I said, I'm going to do something on Jackie Robinson, Paul Robeson in the Cold War. One of the immediate responses was, who's Paul Robeson? Well, you know, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago was the 50th anniversary of Robeson's death. You don't erase somebody that quickly unless it's on purpose. And it's really up to us. It goes back to, as a former Washington Postie, I really, enjoyed the early segment. And as a former Boston Heralder as well, because I went from the Herald to the Post, I do think of my, friend and mentor, David Marinus, who always says, history writes people out of the story, and it's our job to write them back in.
Are we writing them back in? I mean, you wrote them back in, particularly Robeson here. Are we writing them back in, or
Not
are we
really.
just overwhelmed by them?
Well, it depends. I mean, if you feel there's no question about that. And when you think of what DeSantis is doing down in Florida, making it illegal to teach certain things, wiping books off the shelves, all of the things, it's all part of the same. But the question, as always, is what are you going to do about it? And it still remains up to us to do something about it.
Is DeSantis the one who said slavery was a job training program? Is that what he said?
I think he said something. He said something like that. You mentioned at the beginning that white people, white women even, elected Trump, and that maybe this is not the fight of African Americans. Elaborate on that.
Well, just in terms of the raw numbers. I mean, if you look at how he's in office, it's really very simple. There's one demographic. And then there are all the other demographics. I think the white, men and women, I think it's like 67%, and then 53% of white women. When you look at those raw numbers, obviously the bigger issue is the smallest number of the electorate anyway voting. But in terms of who's doing the voting and voting for whom, it's not complicated.
Yeah.
So I hear a lot of people saying, well, this is. You figure it out. It's not our battle. But once again, that's that conflict. It's everybody's battle, whether you want it to be or not.
Well, I think that's one of the shocking things. I think that you're getting screwed for being black for so long. I think it's kind of a shock now to the middle class white people who are not used to being screwed. It's sort of a different sensation. But anyway,
books are really spectacular.
Yeah, thank you.
No, I appreciate it, and thank you. And you guys have always had me on. I'm always thankful and grateful.
Oh, we're very grateful. We're grateful.
Howard Bryant.
I hear you're someplace else all the time too, and you're very good there as well. We speak with Howard Bryant, longtime sports journalist, prolific author of the book, and it's a great book. You will love it. Kings and Pawns, Jackie Robinson and Paul Robeson in America. Wherever you get your books, HowardBryantBooks.com. And by the way, it's Bryant, HowardBryantBooks.com. Thanks again to Howard Bryant.
Thank you.
Okay, coming up after this quick break, we talked yesterday about people going broke, having to get second jobs because they're spending so much money on takeout food and delivery. Now, apparently, people are having to get second jobs to finance their 8-year-old playing sports. Whether you think sports are ruined for kids, taking away the fun from youth sports? And can you even afford youth sports anymore? I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, circling classified ads with a pen, mailing resumes, waiting by the phone. That was the job search until the 1990s when Jeff Taylor changed everything. Founder of Monster.com, he moved the job hunt from newspaper pages to online. He joins us to talk about AI, hiring, and his new platform, BoomBand. That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you. And Bryant University, presenting the 29th Annual Women's Summit, Illuminating Values, Inspiring Action, on March 19th, featuring New York Times bestselling author Ellen Hildebrand. More at wsummit.bryant.edu. And the Cape Cod Foundation, committed to building resources to support community life on Cape Cod, including environmental conservation, arts and culture, and community development. Learn more at capecodfoundation.org.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Tomorrow, MIT President Sally Kornbluth joins us, I think, around noon, back in Brighton. Friday, we're back at the library. Livingston Taylor, a good friend of ours, will perform and talk to us. And on February 10th at the library, noon to 1, is Mayor Wu. So as Marjorie said, I guess this is day 2 of our sort of series on unaffordability. Yesterday was delivery food, which you really don't need to do. But this, a lot of people feel you do. If you grew up in New England, you probably tried your hand at youth sports through your city or town's youth league or through the Scholastic League. Maybe you were good enough to try out for a private club league reserved for the talented and far more expensive and rigorous. And it seems like nowadays more kids are opting for club leagues, or at least their parents are shelling out the money to get them there. And the results are in. It's kind of ruining the concept of youth sports altogether. A piece in the Boston Globe outlines the booming industry. American families, this is unbelievable, spend up to $40 billion a year on their kids in sports. Over $1,000 on average per kid just for their primary sports. If they do other sports, forget about it. Not to mention the cost of travel for club leagues. According to some surveys cited by the Washington Post, which will not have sports coverage anymore as of these firings today, the average youth club activity costs somewhere between $3,000 to $5,000 a year. So the lines are open at 877-301-8970. All you parents and former young athletes, is the clubification of youth sports ruining the fun? Or does it provide a useful pipeline for talented young athletes who would otherwise languish or be bored on town teams? And if you're doing it, how are you affording it when the whole point is just to have some fun and stay fit? Of course, maybe you're doing it because you hope your kid gets a college a scholarship or something. And if you are confronting this problem, are your public schools providing an alternative option? Or are sports being cut back, and those which are not being cut back, particularly in suburban schools, are they costing you money that you can't afford either? 877-301-8970.
So listen to this anecdote, the Washington Post, which will not be writing these kind of stories anymore, I guess, but they talked about this woman, Lindsay Rector, added up the cost for her son's baseball. $60 a week right there for the lesson. Then a new bat was $500. Fees for his baseball club in Florida, and it's 3 practices a week, $3,000 a year. Out of tournaments, which you have to go to, costs more. Last summer he went to Tennessee. This summer it will be Cooperstown, New York. She figures she spends about $8,000 on baseball. Her son is 12 years old. She's gotten so desperate she's opened a GoFundMe page because she figured it's going to cost her about $4,000 to get to Cooperstown for the Cooperstown Dream Park, where people come from across the country for weekly tournaments. So it's gone crazy. Everybody I know that's got a kid that is good in sports, they're going like from Cape Cod to New Jersey for tournaments on weekends.
Shirley Young talked about her kid who's the basketball player. Yeah.
How she hoped she was going to lose.
Right, she said that, let's be clear, half jokingly.
It's like so many other things in the United States of America. Private equity has taken over a lot of this stuff. They're building these mega stadiums. You have to pay sometimes $50 to even try out for some of these travel teams. And that's what happens. If your kid is any good at all, you almost like get scouted when the kid is like 7 or 8. Or you got to join a travel team. You got to join the travel team, and then you're traveling with that team, and you're encouraged to just play one sport.
I know, so you develop great expertise that one. 877-301-8970. I have to say, I would have a lot less sympathy for parents who are in this financial mess if the public schools were doing when you and I were kids. When you and I were kids, which was a century ago, if you wanted to play sports, you know what you did? You went out and played sports.
Right.
Your parents didn't pay the school $300 to join or pay for equipment and that sort of thing. Let me give you...
Did you mention Bridgewater Raynham?
I was just going to say it.
Yep.
Here's an example of a school system, and this to disabuse those of you who say, well, just play for your school. Bridgewater Raynham, in July of last year, this is just, we're not picking on them, it's just one of many, nearly doubled their athletic fee from $360 to $600 per student per sport.
Correct.
So if you play 2 sports, I'll do the math for you, $1,200. And
2
they used to have a family cap.
Yeah.
Now there's no longer any family cap. So if you have 2 kids and they play 2 sports, 600 times 2 and 600 times 2, $2,400, which is really serious money. So how are you dealing with your kids and youth sports? And by the way, I'm assuming, in the Washington Post story, they said 20% of parents are pulling their kids out, or at least contemplating it, out of youth sports because of the unaffordability.
And one more thing, parents in some of these leagues are banned from live streaming their child's matches because the game rights have been sold. So Senator Chris Murphy, you've probably seen him all over television. He's always criticizing Donald Trump. He was told to stop using his phone to live stream his youngest son's hockey game to give to the grandparents because it wasn't allowed, and the coach told him his kid's team would be penalized and lose a place in the standings if he persisted in live streaming the game.
An anonymous texter said, my kid plays polo. Don't even start about how expensive sports are.
Okay, 877-301-8970. Sally from New Hampshire, what do you think?
Hello, Sally.
Hello, you guys. It's Sally in Antrim.
Oh, hey, Sally.
How are you? Okay, so I had 4 kids that played, each one of them played 3 sports a season. And they did AAU, which is, you pay for that, which is cost a fortune, and you pay for all the equipment of these sports and, the uniforms and everything. And my middle kid, one of my middle children, said to me when he was only 13, Mom, if you and Dad didn't have all of us kids, you guys would be millionaires. My life was me.
Pretty good line.
Yep.
So how hard was it, Sally? That's 12 sports per family per season. How'd you handle that?
So how we handle it is I work part-time and my husband works, mad hours, always working. But to tell you the truth, it really was worth it because they loved it. We loved it for them.
Good for you.
Come first. That's all.
That's great.
They come first.
That's beautiful. Sally, thanks for the call. Good to hear from you as always. You know what I think about this? I don't mean to wax poetic about it, but an education is not just a book learning in the classroom kind of thing. Clubs are important. Arts are important, obviously, which is also being cut back, and a lot of schools can't afford instruments. Sports is important for those who want to play it. And the notion that those things are considered extraneous by so many strapped school systems and state legislatures is really unfortunate, not just because of the unaffordability, but because it creates a well-rounded kind of kid.
Yeah, and I don't know why, these AAU, that's one of the big offenders, has to have these tournaments so far away. Why can't you just be in a little AAU region, so you don't have to go so far? And as the caller just said, they are expensive, but the problem is you don't get the exposure. So it's almost like you have to be in an AAU sport.
Did you see what this person said here?
What?
Anonymous texter said, forget college. Kids can't even make a high school team without playing club these days. Ridiculous.
Well, I think it's come to that. Jim from Hingham, what do you think, Jim?
Hello, Jim.
Yes, a friend of mine who was a very talented athlete had a son that was a talented athlete. Everybody wanted him on practice team and on the traveling team. Mm-hmm. So he and his wife took the son to the first traveling team event. And my friend decided that the 10 hours that they spent traveling and waiting was better spent practicing at home. and his son became a professional soccer player.
Oh, well, there you go. There's a lesson learned, Jim. But you're right. I think that if you get pressured to join these travel teams and you think that you have to do it, so good for him.
I just feel bad. It's like, what about the kids that don't have the resources?
Absolutely.
You know what? You're sort of like weaning out talented players that don't have the resources.
Well, let me say one thing. I looked up to say, I don't know all the details because I didn't have enough time and I forgot about it till too late. A system like Boston, which is obviously really strapped, at least from my 3 seconds of research this morning, there's some financial assistance for low and moderate income kids who can't afford it. But, my attitude is it should be free to everybody. But if it isn't, at least you shouldn't discriminate against families that don't have the cash. Jim, thanks for your call.
We got a couple of great texts. 14-year-old son is a hockey goalie. While we do get breaks because he's goalie, we are at least $5,000 a year. He's on multiple teams, camp and summer, tournaments, or even more, hotels, food, and travel. Gabe in Weston says $400 a month for gymnastics, plus addition fees for meets, including the salary to send to the coach, hotel rooms, etc. Not to mention a competition leotard is hundreds of dollars. And then one more texter says, it's the driving. My sister has 3 kids, so she spends all afternoon and evening driving around, taking them to sports, never mind music lessons. And the weekends, forget it, she's running a taxi service.
You hear that a lot, by the
Yeah.
way. You really, that is, well, your kids, my kids were doing Kung Fu in Chinatown, so it wasn't a big thing. It was one time of the weekend. You had a couple athletes. You had 3 athletes in the family, right?
Well, it wasn't as bad then. It wasn't, my kids are in their 30s now, but there were those tournaments on the weekends that were far-flung, and there was AAU, which was far-flung, and I didn't even know about AAU. I'm lucky my son survived.
This is not totally on point, but since it's one of my favorite stories, Marjorie is one of the most, she's going to hate this, one of the most honest people I've ever known. However, Marjorie faced a dilemma a number of years ago when her youngest child was a minor. I don't know, she was a minor and was a terrific soccer player. And the exciting news for Marjorie is she went to a game where her kid, who fairly regularly did this, scored a goal. Now, what was the problem, Marjorie?
The problem was, you know how it is, if you're one of these parents, you're on the sidelines and you're all talking and having a great time. At baseball games, we'd bring wine. It was great. It'd be June and July. But anyway, she scored a goal, and I missed it because I was talking to another mother. So that's the dilemma. Do you tell your kid you missed the goal because you were chatting? Because, in soccer, you never know. Or do you lie and say that you saw the goal?
What'd you do? I forget. You probably told the truth.
I forget what I did. I just remember I was in a panic about it. I think I hope she wouldn't ask me, and then it would be okay.
Oh, we have to take a break because we have a news calendar, and we're going to be right back in about 30 seconds.
We're talking about whether you have to take a second or third job to afford your 8-year-old sporting career. 877-301-8970 is the number to call or text. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
With recent grads facing a tough job market, young people and even colleges are asking,
what does it mean to be educated?
I'm Kurt Carapezza. On our podcast, College Uncovered, we hear how liberal arts programs are weaving career preparation directly into the curriculum.
The number one reason why students enroll in higher ed is to get a good or better job.
Hear the whole conversation on College Uncovered, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Explo. From culinary arts to veterinary science, Explo's summer program helps middle schoolers to find their spark. Day and overnight options at explo.org/summer. Priority deadline February 13th. And the Museum of Science, featuring superpower dogs on the giant screen. The film journeys around the globe as audiences meet the special dogs who save lives and discover the powerful bond they share with their human partners. More at mos.org.
Welcome back to BPR, Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We are continuing our conversation with you about the unaffordability of youth sports. Nick in Rhode Island knows a lot about it. My son is 13, plays youth hockey. We travel from Rhode Island to Maine for games regularly on weekends. Just spent over $1,200 this weekend for 3 games in Waterville Valley. These are my vacations. Cold rinks. Boy, that's... That sounds like
and you know
a
what
lot
else?
of fun.
It's so awful. If you have a hockey kid, you're getting up sometimes at 4 o'clock in the morning to take the kid to the rink. And then if the kid is little, you have to help the kid put on their hockey uniform. And that's horrible, too.
You know what my solution is for this, by the way,
What?
the unaffordability of all this sports stuff?
What?
Buy them a guitar. I mean, that I think.
Buy the guitar.
And tell them to go practice
That's
in
right.
their room.
Yeah. 877-301-8970. Robert from Dartmouth. What do you think, Robert?
Hello, Robert.
I think this whole business about money for sports is stupid. I'm in my mid-70s. I refereed for 50 years.
Yikes.
I've seen it all. And I got to tell you, sports are essential for personal growth,
I agree with you.
learning to be on a team,
I agree with you.
playing by the rules. And the adults are responsible for keeping it fun, fair, and safe. And as far as I'm concerned, this travel business takes all the fun out of it. That's all I got to say.
You said it beautifully, Robert. That was excellent. Thank you for the call. Call us again.
Listen to this one. My granddaughters are into competitive cheerleading, all-consuming. They fly to Orlando, Atlanta, Illinois, California, and drive to Atlantic City. Airfare, hotels, never mind the uniforms, the hair pieces, the makeup. I think it's all a big scam. It takes all their time. I barely see them anymore.
Say who that was from. That's important.
Who's from?
That's Jordan's mother, actually. Isn't that? It's beautiful that she listens to the show.
And look at her.
Isn't she a champion? She owns property,
Yeah,
like $8 million in
$9
property.
million worth of property. Yeah, she's
Worked
done
out
very
okay
well
for
for
her.
herself. That's a very good point, Jim.
Thank you. I appreciate your support.
Caroline from Wenham.
Hi, Caroline.
Hi. I think
Okay.
the other thing is that these kids are playing in one sport all year long.
Yep.
And Trenny Casey always talks about the injuries that all these
Absolutely
athletes
right.
are having, and I think it's because they're playing on one sport continually. And I'm not a fan of Tom Brady, but his the greatness of his success, I think, was because he didn't do that. And he was able to adjust to all the different sports, and his body wasn't overtaxed.
Well, you know who I learned just yesterday was, I'm embarrassed to say I didn't know, the hope for next Tom Brady, at least not as a person, but as an athlete, Drake May was a multi-sport player.
Yeah, that
Apparently he
used
could
to
have
be-
played basketball in college. He was really good, and the whole family did that kind of thing. Caroline, that's a really important point about one sport kids and the danger to them. And I assume it's because the parent believes they're going to be either a pro or get a college scholarship. Is that the motivation for the one sport thing? You get really good at something?
I think that's part of it, and I think that there's pressure just to do the one sport year round. And one of these stories talks about how the 3-star athlete used to be a big deal, but that's gone. You're laughing at the Kung Fu, Jim?
No, yeah, read Tyler's.
Tyler says, I'd
In
like
Utah. Tyler is listening in Utah.
Utah.
Thank you, Tyler.
I'd like to see Jim do some Kung Fu on the air sometime. He must have learned something by watching his kids.
Actually, I plan next week, if you come to the library on Tuesday, I believe, I'll be performing several whatevers of Kung Fu.
All 3 daughters played softball and soccer when younger, but the you-know-what hit the fan when my middle daughter went into heavy Irish step dancing. She reached a very high level, which is wonderful, but traveled all over the country, even to Canada and then Europe. It nearly broke us. Her last competition dress, which was made in Ireland, cost $3,000. Wow.
Yeah. Okay, 877-301-8970. Katie in Situate, you're next. Hi.
Hey guys, it's your aggressive cleaner.
Oh, hey Katie.
Hi.
What's up?
Hi. Well, I'm a parent that's working part-time, and we do the rec programs in our town, and we do the basketball and the baseball, but for some reason, soccer is double the price, even though you get no equipment in soccer and you do in baseball. So luckily, my kids have never begged to play soccer, and we just end up going to the beach more in September.
Well, that's
good for you. Good for you.
Hey, Katie, thanks. Good to hear from you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't understand why some are so much more expensive than others, but I do agree. My son this summer asked why he wasn't playing All-Star Baseball, and I told him, I said, oh, buddy, that's because we're going to be in Wells Beach that week, but he didn't realize he didn't make the team.
Well, That's okay. I mean, you gotta, it's gonna happen, these kind of disappointments, but they're tough. I'm sorry, but I bet you had a good time at the beach.
Katie,
Thank you for the
thanks.
call. Kate in Newton says, 2 words, cross country. Cheaper, anyone can join the team. There are a few club teams, and the only times you need to be to your own. You know something else about cross country teams?
Wasn't your youngest a track
My oldest.
star? Oh, your oldest.
My
Yeah,
oldest.
right.
They have the nicest. The cross country teams are usually the co-ed. They're nice kids. It's not
They are?
dog eat dog. Yeah, it's a whole different kind of atmosphere. I really like the
It's a
cross
little
country
biased.
team. Yeah, track and field.
What do you mean? They're not nice kids than the other ones?
Well, sometimes, I mean, the basketball, the baseball, there's a little, the parents in the stands screaming, and, it's a little over the top.
Remember my
sometimes.
favorite story on that thing? Don't tell this again, Jim. Yes, I am going to tell it, Marjorie. I go to a field in Cambridge. I've told you this story.
Oh, yeah, that was awful.
And these are like 6 or 7-year-olds who are playing. I don't know if it was Little League or whatever it was. And a kid gets up to bat. This is unbelievable. And the father or the mother, I can't remember, a parent stands up in the stands and yells out at the kid, Johnny, or whatever his name was, this is your chance to redeem yourself. And the kid was like 6 or 7 years old.
That's
I assume he had
awful.
struck out the prior time. I mean, oh my, what is wrong with these? They should ban the parents from the games too.
Okay, listen to this. Our friends have 2 grown kids. The older, a daughter, a figure skater in high school. Parents pay for the skates, leotards, ice time, products, etc. They were so relieved when the second kid joined the high school bowling team, and we believe that child's name was Harriet.
That's funny. Susan in New Hampshire, we got 30 seconds. Now I'm going to move past that very quickly. Susan, welcome to the show. 30 seconds. Hi.
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 So I'm also from Antrim, and I know Sally. Hi.
Oh,
hi.
We're huge in Antrim, by the way, Susan. Go ahead.
Yes. We're big fans in Antrim.
Great.
So my concern is what kids are missing out on if they're spending all their time driving to sports and spending all this time in sports. It's not just the expense, it's the time and their precious childhoods. My kids were both in after-school sports in limited way, and when they asked me if they could, join something bigger, and I said, well, this is what it's going to take. These are the drive times, this is the money, and they both opted out for not participating. They said, no, we really value our downtime.
Wow. That's pretty incredible. Susan, thanks for that. Say hi to everybody up there in Antrim.
Okay, I believe we are joined now by our colleague, Edgar B. Hurd.
I didn't have that problem, by the way. I did, in terms of free time, just stayed home and ate. Just stuffed my face from the time school was over till the time I went to bed. Oh, look who's there. Edgar B. Hurd III. Hi, Edgar.
Edgar B. Hurd III.
Now, wait a minute, Jim. My understanding is you played a little bit of basketball, because I also played basketball as a kid. Now, I was extremely short. I was a late bloomer, as they say, so I was really short as a kid. So one thing I never had to hear was somebody say, how can somebody so tall be so bad at basketball?
Okay, unfortunately, I only have
That's
15
right.
seconds to tell
Jim's
it.
6'5".
My high school coach was Art McNally, who was the head of NFL officials, and when I was finally cut, that's exactly, I said, it was really great, you kept me so long, but how did I make it so long? And his response was verbatim, as Edgar said, we didn't believe that somebody that big could be that bad. Thank you for reminding everybody, Edgar. We appreciate it. So what are you doing on that show thing of yours today at 1 o'clock, right for us?
Yeah, 1 o'clock. Speaking of sports, Jim, you've run a marathon. That's right.
Two.
So
much
amazing.
faster than Marjorie, too.
Believe this. There is an event going on right now where people are running 7 marathons over 7 days on 7 continents. Which is absolutely bonkers. There's a local runner from Beverly who has competed in this twice, has done it twice. So we talked to her and find out a little bit about what these folks are going through right now in the middle of this, what I would call insane endeavor. And then we're going to get into something that's really interesting, which is, can dogs talk?
I know, I'm into
question
this.
mark. Can they talk? Not just communicate with us, but can they sort of talk to us in our language by pressing buttons on the floor? It's a new Nova doc. We're going to talk about that, and the phone lines will be open, so
fabulous.
give us a ring.
Same number. Edgar will be listening.
Edgar, that
Thanks
sounds
so much.
great. Thank
By the
you
way,
so much.
Is Jared at the library today? And Jared will be here at the library at 2 o'clock for the Culture Show, so stick around
Yeah, he's
or
going
come
to be
on
talking
down.
to Mary Grant, president of MassArt, talking about the art of dissent. Okay. Keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast, or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio, which is, I was checking out yesterday. It is excellent. Nicole does it for us. Yeah.
good, yeah.
Tomorrow we're going to speak with political analyst Chuck Todd, former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety Andrew Cabral, who's going to give us like a primer on the Epstein files. MIT President Sally Kornbluth and the Culture Show's Jared Bowen will join us as well. We want to thank our crew, Zoe Matthews, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, our engineer, John the Claw Parker, our executive producer, Jamie Bologna, our staff here at the BPL, Maddie Geyer, Brandon Cardley, Juan Jose Cadena, our host of the Newsfeed Cafe, and across the street at the Lenox Hotel. The Curiosity Desk starts right after us here at 89.7, and then after that, the Culture Show with Jared Bowen starts at 2.
Right here.
Right here
Right
at the
here.
library. That is correct, Jim. I'm Marjorie Egan.
Jim Browdy.
See you later. Thanks for
Bye.
listening. Hope you have a great afternoon. Hope you can tune in tomorrow.
From the stories of centuries past to discoveries that will define our future, How Did We Get Here's, how-tos, and more. Journey with us down the rabbit hole on the Curiosity Desk. Coming up next on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you. And the Peabody Essex Museum, presenting Andrew Gunn, Fashioning the World, a retrospective of the Singaporean fashion designer. You can learn more at PEM.org. And CrowdStreet, a platform providing individual investors direct access to private equity, private credit, and real estate. Learn more at crowdstreet.com.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, it's the dream of every pet owner since the dawn of time. Actually talking, conversing with their animal companions. New science explores whether we're on the cusp of seeing a real-life Dr. Dolittle or Mr. Ed. It's the focus of a new Nova documentary. We'll meet 3 people who are saying there's a chance, starting with dogs. We'll take your questions live for that, so get ready to weigh in. Also today, how do you define grit?
I mean, I wasn't going to give up. I mean, I think that's what all of us runners and especially endurance athletes, like we have, like we're going to try. You know, if I had to crawl, I would have before I took myself out of the race.
One runner tells us what it's like to run 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents. It's all ahead this hour on the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. The man convicted of trying to assassinate Donald Trump while he was running for president in 2024 has been sentenced to life in prison. A federal judge in Florida handed down the sentence for Ryan Ruth, who was convicted of planning an attack at Trump's West Palm Beach golf course. The incident took place just 2 months after another assassination attempt on Trump at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania. The White House says it's pulling hundreds of federal immigration agents out of Minnesota as part of a broader shift in strategy. Border Czar Tom Homan says federal officials have made significant progress coordinating with state and local law enforcement, even amid occasional disagreements. Brian Baxt of Minnesota Public Radio reports.
He described having gotten commitments from, in his word, an unprecedented number of sheriffs in Minnesota to coordinate on transfers of immigrants with criminal records for possible deportation. And because of that, he says there won't be a need for as many federal agents on the ground.
That's Brian Bax reporting. The shift in enforcement strategy follows the fatal shootings of 2 U.S. citizens by ICE agents last month. President Trump spoke with Chinese President Xi Jinping today. NPR's Franco Ordonez reports Trump says he had a positive call covering a wide range of global issues.
The president said the two leaders discussed Taiwan, the Russian-Ukraine war, and Iran. They also discussed Trump's upcoming trip to Beijing in April. Trump wrote on social media, quote, "The relationship with China and my personal relationship with President Xi is an extremely good one, and we both realize how important it is to keep it that way." Trump said they also discussed trade, including for U.S. agriculture products. He said China agreed to increase its purchase of U.S.-produced soybeans. He went on to say he expects many positive results over the next 3 years of his presidency while working with President Xi. Franco Ordonez, NPR News, the White House.
Arizona Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs says she's cautiously optimistic that western states are moving toward a deal on managing the Colorado River. Alex Hager of member station KJZZ reports.
The 7 states can't agree on how to share the pain of cutbacks to a shrinking water supply. The rules for managing the river expire later this year. Hobbs says they probably won't meet a mid-February deadline for a new agreement, but they'll be on the right path by then.
We were clearly at an impasse. I feel like we're at a place where we can start to move past that now.
State leaders appear to be moving toward a short-term deal for the river. The feds cautioned against a 5-year deal that would kick the can down the road, but Hobbs says a short deal could serve as a bridge to a longer-term agreement. For NPR News, I'm Alex Hager in Phoenix.
On Wall Street, the Dow was down 15 points. This is NPR News in Washington.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. The latest batch of Epstein files has revealed additional ties between the late sex offender and Harvard University. From our higher ed desk, GBH's Kirk Carapezza reports that Epstein planned to leave math professor Martin Nowak $5 million in his will.
Harvard already sanctioned Nowak in 2021 over ties to Epstein, but he's still a tenured professor. Besides the inheritance, the latest batch of Epstein documents includes an email exchange where Nowak tells Epstein, quote, "Our spy was captured after completing her mission." In Epstein's response, he asks, "Did you torture her?" It's not clear who they're referring to or whether the comments were meant to be taken seriously. Some Harvard professors say they're requesting an ethics investigation. They want to know why an earlier investigation failed to uncover the full extent of Epstein's ties to the university. Kirk Carapezza, GBH News.
Nowak did not respond to requests for comment. Harvard pointed to an earlier statement saying it's, quote, "conducting a review of information concerning individuals at Harvard included in the newly released Jeffrey Epstein documents to evaluate what actions may be warranted," unquote. Yesterday, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey hosted a delegation from Denmark at the State House. They were here to sign a collaboration agreement, and today she welcomes a delegation from Nova Scotia. Politico reports the Nova Scotia delegation is here to sign a new offshore wind agreement. 30 degrees in Boston right now, looking for a high of maybe 33 if we're lucky. I'm Henry Santoro. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Lodestar Foundation, inspired by the maxim that helping someone else less fortunate is a path to a happier, healthier, and more meaningful life. Learn more at lodestarfoundation.org. This is NPR.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Now, what dog owner hasn't translated their pups' barks and whines into something a little more intelligible? But what if those noises you were interpreting sounded a little more like this? That is a dog pressing buttons that are saying help, water, outside. That's from a new Nova documentary that debuts tonight called Can Dogs Talk? It explores not just the phenomenon of dogs pressing buttons to make human sounds, but also whether in pressing those buttons, those dogs are really, truly speaking with their owners. So this is a question for you out there, listeners. Can your dog talk? Do you have a sense that they can? Have you had your dog use these buttons before? Do you think they can understand you? Give us a call or a text at 877-301-8970. That's going to be just ahead. We'll take your calls. But for now, 3 guests join me on Zoom who are part of this new Nova documentary. Federico Rossano is the director of the Comparative Cognition Lab at the University of California, San Diego. Christina Hunger is a speech pathologist and founder of the Talking Dog Movement. She's also parent to Stella, described as the world's first talking dog. And Sasha Krasno is owner of an incredible beagle mix named Parker, who the New York Times called, quote, a genius. Federico, Christina, Sasha, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Very excited for this. Very, very excited. Okay, Christina, I want to start with you because you were really the first person that built one of these boards. You are the first person that had a notion, I guess, looking at your dog Stella, saying, I think Stella can talk. Now, you're a speech pathologist, and I imagine maybe that played into this. But how did you get started with this project? What gave you the idea to try this?
It was really my passion for using communication devices in my work as a speech pathologist. So a lot of the kids that I worked with had different disabilities or disorders, so they couldn't fully communicate with verbal speech. And when that was the case, it was my job to find an alternative method of communication, which would be like a device that had different icons or buttons that when you press it, it says the word out loud. So that's how kids would primarily communicate if they couldn't with verbal speech. And so when I brought my puppy Stella home, I just had this epiphany moment. You know, dogs understand words that we say, they just don't develop verbal speech. What if she had a communication device, and what if I taught her like I taught my students at work? So it was really just this passion project for me, and something I was really curious about and wanted to see if she would be able to make that same leap from using gestures and vocalizations to then using words to communicate.
And what did you see when you first kind of got this whole thing set up? As you said, you're sort of on a lark a little bit. It's sort of like, would it work? And so you set it up, and what happened?
So I started off very small. I didn't have this big grand plan. I just wanted to see if she could learn a few basic words so that she wouldn't be whining and we wouldn't be guessing what she wanted. I just wanted her to have like a way to clearly express, this is what I need, and then we could get those needs met quickly. So I started with just a few buttons: outside, play, and water. For the first few weeks, she really did not pay any attention to it. Like, if it was anyone else starting this, I think they would have given up right away. But it could sometimes even take months for kids to really recognize this device as something that they could use as a tool. So I kept going, and about 3 weeks in, she started really watching me use the buttons. And then after about a month, she said her first word outside in the right context when she had to go to the bathroom. So that was our just initial start. And then over years, I kept adding concepts and using my language development background and my work in speech pathology to guide my teaching with her.
And, as one does these days, you posted videos on social media, and the word got out about what was happening with you and Stella. And lo and behold, all of a sudden, this thing explodes into a movement. Sasha, with your dog Parker, is that how you encountered this? Did you catch this on social media and say, my dog is also smart and can probably do this?
Yeah, basically. I always say my stepdad was an early TikTok adopter, and he found
amazing. Your stepdad? Yeah. That is awesome.
He found videos of the dogs using the buttons, and he started sending them to me. This was during the pandemic. My kind of 17-year-old dog had just passed away, and I was getting ready to kind of get another dog. And so he was like, when you get your next dog, you got to try this. And I was like, sure. It looks like a fun little thing. Like I wasn't,
neat trick.
Yeah, exactly. And then I kind of watched it more and I started reading about it and I discovered there was research about it and I discovered Christina and her work. And then what really cinched it is I actually read Christina's first book, How Stella Learned to Talk. And I read it cover to cover on a flight to visit my sibling. And when I landed, I ordered the buttons. And I had already, I mean, I'm an academic myself, not in the sciences, but so I like go hard and like do all my research and figure everything out. So like I knew what I was going to do. I immediately enrolled her in the study. I was like, we're going to get this, we're going to get this started. And so I was just she was 6 months old when I finally decided, okay, yeah, no, this isn't something like a fun thing to try. This is actually something like that could really be crucial to her well-being and to her living her best life. And so that's what got us kind of started.
You mentioned a study, as we just heard, what sort of started as just kind of a notion, an idea, scratching an itch of curiosity, has become an enormous worldwide study that's in large part to the work of Federico Rossano, who's the director of the Comparative Cognition Lab at the University of California, San Diego. Federico, you yourself came to this, I think, with a little bit of skepticism. You had people, colleagues, friends maybe warning you off, dipping your toe in these waters, and yet you did. How did you encounter this, and why did you start doing research on this project?
You're absolutely right. I was definitely skeptical, and I had been warned by many people that if I ever wanted to get tenured in academia, that was a terrible idea to get involved in this. There's a long history of trying to train animals with symbols. Of course, it started in the 20th century, but especially around the 1980s, there was a big pushback basically saying we should not be doing this research with non-human primates, with chimpanzees, bonobos, and so on. And so, some of my colleagues, including my mentors, were like, don't do it. Like, why do you want to do this? And at the same time, I confess, my first child was just born. I was holding my child in my arms and I was looking at these clips and I was like, there is something here that reminds me a little bit of what my child is doing. And at the same time, I was determined not to make the same mistakes that others had done before. And so the one way to go was, well, first we cannot just take one dog, train it 8 hours a day in the lab and hope that that's going to solve the problem. We need to sort of let it be in a natural environment with the people they love. And we need to do it with multiple participants so that we can really kind of cast our net wide and see where the talent is, right? So where Stella is and where Parker is and where all the other amazing dogs that we found this way. But the other big thing was that by the time I started, we knew that dogs were so much better than non-human primates in terms of understanding human communication. We know that they can learn hundreds of words, if not thousands. We know that they care about human gestures like pointing and so on. They pay attention to our emotions. And so if you're trying to learn a tool that will help you potentially communicate, then you want to do it with the species that care to begin with, to communicate with us. And so dogs, in that sense, were the ideal candidate as a species to do this work, contrary to what had been done in the past.
We're talking with Federico Rossano, Christina Hunger, and Sasha Krasno. We're talking about whether or not dogs can talk, which is explored in a new Nova documentary, which debuts tonight on your local PBS station. We're also taking your calls and texts. I want to hear about your dogs or cats or other animals that you keep. Let us know if they are smart. Let us know if you communicate with them. And more importantly, let us know if they communicate with you. Also, skeptics, I want to hear from you. The number is 877-301-8970. You can call or text at 877-301-8970. All right, I want to dig in a little bit to the notion of the difference between, say, communication and language. Because I think as you say, we sort of know, I think everybody knows that we can communicate, quote unquote, with our animals. But whether or not that constitutes language, I think, is one of the chief questions here. So let's start talking about this notion first of associative learning. So here is a little cut from the Nova doc. This is researcher Amalia Bastos explaining the concept of associative learning and why a dog who knows what buttons to press doesn't necessarily mean that they're understanding human language.
Everything in life starts through associative learning, and actually humans learn through associative learning. Good boy. Associative learning is common to pretty much all animals.
Freak.
and it doesn't require any sort of complex cognition that we should be impressed by. You could easily teach a mouse to press buttons. Okay, you got that one.
And that's the big problem. Just because they can press buttons that say words doesn't necessarily mean the dogs have any real understanding of what those words mean.
So, how do we know that they are doing something more than just pressing buttons? Christina?
So when I first started this, my idea wasn't, how can I train my dog to press this button that says a word? I was coming at this from a speech language pathology background, and my expertise is in teaching language. So I modeled words for her in the right context, used them appropriately. I wasn't training her to push a button and giving her a treat. Never used treats unless she asked for food, then I would give her food. But really what we need to see here is how dogs are using the words. Do they match the context that they're in? Are they independent? Are they getting cues from their humans, or is this spontaneous? So when we see these patterns over time of dogs using words in the right context, and then even using them for different meanings that haven't been taught, that really points to something more than just conditioning a trained response.
Can you give me an example of when you say using them in ways that they haven't been taught? Do we have an example of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So even from the very beginning, when I just had 3 words for Stella, outside, play, and water, my goal then was just for her to be able to communicate those basic needs. But what started happening was, even with those 3 basic words, she started using them in ways that I hadn't taught. So she would use water as I was watering my houseplants, not when she needed a drink of water or when her bowl was empty. She would say outside when my husband would go to the front yard and mow the lawn, and then she would watch him outside. And so that was a shift for me, because I'm like, she's not just using buttons to request an action that I had, trained for her. She's using them to label what's going on, to just connect with me and use words in different ways, just like toddlers do in their early stages of language development.
Sasha, what has your experience been in this regard with Parker?
Yeah, I mean, very similar. Parker also likes to say water when I'm watering the plants. Sometimes I feel a little mad that I don't water them as much as I probably should.
I was going to say, I'm impressed with both of you that you are regularly watering your plants.
I mean, she often lately goes up and sniffs the plant and presses plant and stares at me, and I think she might be judging me a little bit about lack of diligence on the watering. But I think also it's, with the limited words that she has, and Parker has a fairly large board, it's also seeing ways that she's combining words to talk about things that that she doesn't have buttons for, right? Which I'm not teaching because I'm not thinking that's a word she even needs. So, just kind of 2 quick examples. One, we had this is kind of a well-known example if you know Parker at all, but there was an ambulance parked outside of our house. She was staring at it out the window, and then she walked over to her board and pressed squeaker car. Now, I've never called an ambulance. I mean, now that's what I call ambulances all the time. But
it's a squeaker car.
An ambulance, a squeaker car. And there are other dogs that have combined car. There's a dog named Bastion who's combined fridge car to talk about an ice cream truck. So these combinations and things like that. She also combined, she has a sweater button to ask for when she wants a sweater taken on or put on or taken off. And she has a food button, of course, and she was combining sweater food for a really long time. And I had no idea what she was talking about. And then a few people on the internet suggested that she might mean her snuffle mat, which is a fabric thing that has places to put, and she kind of sniffs out the food in it. And once I gave her a snuffle mat button, she stopped combining sweater and food, because that is what she meant. And she started using that in place of it. So this kind of creativity of thinking outside the original way that I'm modeling it to mean other things is something that I think it goes beyond kind of just simple associative learning.
Federico, how do we know that this isn't just wishful thinking? How do we know that this isn't us interpreting things that we want to see in a way we want to see them? How do we know that these leaps or these combinations of words aren't either random or us just seeing what we want?
It's a fantastic question, and it's actually a very hard scientific question to answer, because what they're talking about is a phenomenon called productivity. It's something typical of human language, which is the ability to combine new words to communicate about things that we don't currently have a word for. At the same time, of course, we don't really have clear evidence that animals can do it. There's anecdotal reports. And so we need to conduct studies. For example, you would need to create a situation where there is an ambulance, and then you just get Parker to see how is Parker communicating about it and what kind of combinations could possibly make sense. And then see whether these combinations, for example, get used again in the future. We have examples of dogs using waterborne to communicate about ice, and then when you give them the button ice, then they stop using that combination. Now, those things potentially suggest that they were using those combinations in that sense. But what you need to see, of course, is try to test it systematically, right? And try to create these situations that would be highly arousing, highly interesting for the animal to communicate about it. The other way we can do it, of course, is we need to start from the basics, which is what we try to do. First, you try to assess, do they even understand the meaning of the button? So that when I push a certain button, do they respond properly, right? So if I say food and they actually run to pick up a toy, then clearly they don't understand what
unless
food
they
is.
like to eat toys, in which case
unless they like to eat toys. That's a very good point. But then, so you start with that. And then the next thing, of course, is like, well, when they push it, do they push the buttons equally, right? So if it's complete random, any button should do. If it's just a way of getting your attention. And we know that they don't. Indeed, what we see is that the buttons they push the most are treat, water, play, outside. And so, you realize that sort of there's a bias towards using things that seem to be very dog relevant, and other buttons like love you are pressed way less than they're trained. So it tells you that it's not just like, oh, we do it because my owner loves to train me on this, but I do it because I care about this. And of course, more work needs to be done. So right now we are trying to develop new studies with eye tracking, with EEG, trying to sort of getting into the physiology of how these specific animals who have been trained with buttons seem to be dealing with the buttons themselves and communication. And the last example I want to give is one that is actually in the documentary. One of the concepts that Christina mentioned is flexibility, right? So how do we know that they actually are not purely doing associative learning? The idea is that if you train something in a certain context, then it would be very hard for you to generalize to a new context.
Right.
And so, for example, if you learn an abstract concept like help in a very specific context, like, for example, if you're trying to retrieve an object from under a couch, now you shouldn't necessarily understand that help can also be if you're having difficulty opening the door or opening a container or something else. But if you actually have the ability to generalize, if your representations are of the concept of help is broader than just that specific situation, then you should be able to do it. And there's a clip that shows, for example, Parker being able to use the button help, basically selecting out of 80 buttons, just finding the one that Parker needs to be able to ask for help because cannot retrieve a piece of food from inside a container that had been locked.
Interesting.
And so she couldn't access it.
Clever design. Okay, folks, Federico, Christina, and Sasha are staying with us, but right now we're going to step away just for a moment, and it is time for you to enter the conversation. Give us a call or text us at 877-301-8970. Pet owners, I know you're out there. I know you want to talk about this. Your calls are next on the Curiosity Desk. Stay with us.
Russia's hybrid warfare against Europe has increased sharply since the country's full-scale invasion of Ukraine 4 years ago. Attacks are becoming more dangerous.
These attacks are getting more visible because Russia is really trying to influence the general population.
I'm Juana Summers. Russia's attempts to undermine support for Ukraine in Europe on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you. And Bryant University, presenting the 29th Annual Women's Summit, Illuminating Values, Inspiring Action, on March 19th, featuring New York Times bestselling author Ellen Hildebrand. More at wsummit.bryant.edu. And Riverstone International US LLC, located in Beverly, Massachusetts. A Riverstone International company acquiring legacy insurance globally since 2010. Learn more at rsml.co.uk.
You're listening to The Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. If you're just tuning in, we're speaking with Federico Rossano, Christina Hunger, and Sasha Krasno from brand new Nova documentary, Can Dogs Talk? We are asking you that question, can your dog talk? And right now we're going to take a call from Michelle in Dracut, whose dog can maybe talk. What do you got for us, Michelle?
Hi. So my dog knows everything I say when we're outside, and I say in, she goes right in the fence, and when I say let's go to bed, she knows. She goes right upstairs, and let's go for a walk, she knows. She's very smart, and when I say we're going to have a biscuit, she runs right to the door and sits. Yeah, go ahead.
Have you had other dogs in the past? Do you think that this dog in particular is more intelligent than the others, or is this common for you with dogs?
Yes. Well, I trained her. I went to all the MSPC classes, and she's a good citizen. And I worked with her a lot because she's really good. She's part pit bull, she's part English setter, and she's part lab. And she's only about 45, 50 pounds. And she's the best. She's the smartest dog I've ever had. I've had dogs my whole life, but she really is the smartest, and I love her very much.
All right.
And we're good friends, yes.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Michelle. All right, let's go to Tennis in Lawrence. Tennis, what do you got?
Oh, say that again?
Tennis in Lawrence.
Hi, how you doing? So we have my wife and I have a 14-year-old Staffordshire Terrier, what people sometimes call a pit bull. And you know, I understand that dogs are conditioned to recognize human behavior and respond to that and associate things with our routines and what we do. Tommy, our dog, knows when it's time to go for a walk or go for a ride because we do that at certain times of the day. But I could just throw these words out randomly. We could be sitting in our family room and I could say ride, treat, walk, and he immediately responds to that without associating that with, hey, mom and dad are going to the door, or it's the morning, so I have to go for my walk. So there's no question in my mind that dogs recognize at least a handful of words and associate that with things that they enjoy. And it's just, we know that dogs experience emotional states the way we do, and they might not be capable of, high-level abstract thinking, but, they certainly can relate to us at some level and understand language. I'm convinced of that.
All right. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you. I see all three of you sort of nodding your heads as he's talking. I wonder, I hear him sort of talking about, we know that animals can associate certain words. We know that they can understand us a certain way. But how is the stuff that you are all doing the same as that, and how is it different?
Well, I think buttons just really open it up to be a two-way street. I mean, most people who have dogs understand that when they say a word, their dog recognizes it if it's a word that they use frequently. So instead of, just the human saying words and waiting for their dog to respond, or the dog sitting around waiting all day to hear the word that they're wanting, a dog can go to their buttons and actually say it independently. So it's really just opening this up for that two-way communication. If I feel like if we're expecting dogs to listen to our words and understand them and kind of cooperate using them, then they should have access to them too. So I think knowing that dogs understand words is really the foundation of it.
877-301-8970 is the number to call or text us. We are talking about whether or not your dog can talk, whether or not dogs can talk. That's 877-301-8970. We got a text. Somebody asks, how does a dog's age affect how the experiment is run? Essentially, do they need to learn young? Can you teach an old dog new tricks? Does age have do we see in the data, is age having a factor, Federico?
Yes and no. So definitely we see that the most proficient users usually start young, often near the end of their first year of life or early second year. And they tend to learn a lot of buttons and use a lot of buttons. But we have several older dogs that would easily use 40, 50 buttons, and they seem to be rather proficient. Now, one of the issues for us is, of course, the number of buttons a dog gets depends on the owner, not necessarily on the dog. So you might decide not to, you might not have enough space, you don't want to add another 50 words to the vocabulary. And so all we can do is we can look at use, right? It's like, do they use it, and do they seem to use it kind of in a reliable way, in a way that seems intentional, in a way that seems non-random. And we definitely see older dogs doing that. We also have cats in the study, by the way.
Wait,
and
whoa,
we have some amazing
you have cats in the study
well.
too? You're just dropping that 20 minutes into this segment?
We have 700 cats in the study too. And I can tell you, old cats are really, really good. So funny enough, we have like younger dogs and old cats seem to be particularly good at this. But the general message is, imagine you have a 10-year-old dog. And, if you think of the buttons as a way for them to get what they want more promptly, if you ask, for example, for food or water or a toy or to go outside because maybe you need to pee, why not, right? It's like they can learn this. That is not an impossible feat. I think it's more a matter of like, what else do you want to teach? And then, of course, if you want to go with concept like yes or no or now and later and help, more abstract concept, then that might take a little more training. And for some dogs, it might be a little harder. But one of the things that I actually would like to emphasize, at least in our study, have learned the concept of ouch to communicate about pain. And they would combine ouch with body parts, like ear ouch, belly ouch, paw ouch. And I think that is very promising, even if they learn nothing about language. If you can tell us when you are in pain and you can tell us which body part of yours hurts, would help your owner take you to the doctor. And so in that sense, we are hoping that, not just focusing on language per se, but trying to see how this affects animal welfare. And for that, older dogs will probably benefit from it as well.
Federico, I just want to clarify with you here because you may be saying something very controversial. Are you saying that cats are smarter than dogs when we hear you talking about?
I'm not. Okay. I'm not saying they're smarter than dogs. I'm not. But I'm saying the cats are smart too.
Just kidding.
Because,
All right, we're talking with Federico Rosano, Christina Hunger, and Sasha Krasno from the new Nova film, Can Dogs Talk? We're also taking your calls at 877-301-8970. That's 877-301-8970. Tyler in Medford, you're on the Curiosity Desk.
Hey, so, all right, I noticed something about talking to dogs. So when I was younger, I had a dog named Ellie. I still have her, and my mom would always talk to her in this like really high pitched sort of baby voice, and I always wondered like, why does she do that? I work at a kennel now. I'm actually on my lunch break as we speak, and I noticed, dogs, they all know what "come here" means. Some don't listen, but if you talk to them in this high pitched baby voice, you can coerce them to come to you. They really understand tonality. If I scold one for peeing in the kennel, they are looking at me with some look in their eyes. If I give them a baby voice, they all come rushing to me for attention. So tonality is really important when talking to dogs. It's really cool to see them understand your tones.
Interesting stuff. Question for Christina and Sasha. Do you think other dogs would be just as good as this at this experiment, or do you feel like Stella and Parker are different, special, unique?
I think like most people who have pets, I of course think my dog is extremely special. But I mean, I think that any dog, as Federico said, cat, there are other animals using it, has the potential to do this. I do think that, dogs that have these kind of larger boards, I don't know if all of them have, also, like, I don't know that all people have the investment to spend the time, modeling all these things. Or, I think a lot of people who end up kind of working really heavily with this are people who are involved in education or things like that, who, this is already part of the way they're thinking, but also maybe have more flexible schedules. I started teaching Parker during a summer. I'm a college professor. I was off, I was able to spend hours with her kind of working on these things. So I think it's a combination of just kind of, are in the same way that certain people are maybe like more talkative, than others, or more introspective or sassier, the same is true of animals. But that there's also the human component of how much you're willing to invest in kind of giving your animal this agency to speak with you.
We're going to go back to the phone lines. Claire in Acton. Claire has the talking dog button, so I want to get your take, Claire. How does it work for you? And what's your dog's name?
Oh, my dog's name is Ginger. She's a very sweet and spicy Wheaten Terrier. She's 8 years old, and my husband and I heard Bunny on TikTok, and he started showing me those, this dog is using buttons, and I thought, wow, this is really cool. We just got them. We thought, well, we'll just try it and see if she likes them. She's pretty smart. She picked up on it right away. And, we just did things like I make cookies all the time, and she loves cookies. So she knows when I'm making them. She sits there, she waits. And so we did a cookie button. We did a carrot button because she loved carrots. We did play. We did, some typical things. But we learned that she really likes using them, and it was our main form of communicating. She would just go with the buttons all the time when she wanted something. Now, unfortunately, my husband died 2 months ago.
I'm so sorry.
She was thank you, but she was so very, very close to him. The buttons had died. He couldn't fix them, and I just kind of put it away. But Christmas time, I just thought, maybe it's time for some buttons again. And I got some and started again. And it took her a week to sort of like notice them because they were different and bigger. But now she's using them. And I don't know if it's therapeutic or not, but I think it might be because she needs something, and I just feel like she is now communicating with the buttons again for things that she can ask me, because she really she needs more attention, of course, and I am giving her a lot, but she misses him. And I think, I don't know. I just think this might be a connection, but at any rate, I think they're great. I think she definitely communicates.
Thank you for sharing, sure. Claire. Thank you. We only got about a minute left. Sasha, Christina, I wonder if you could just weigh in really quickly. Has your relationship with your dogs changed through this? Do you feel like it's deepened or different?
100%. I know I started teaching Stella when she was really young, but how I viewed her then, and then over the years, learning all of her different preferences and just how much she's thinking about, it gives me such a great appreciation for her. And I'll let you go, Sasha.
Yeah. As I said, I had a dog before Parker, and, very much he was a dog that was like in my life, but she is like a partner with me. We're more equals in this way. Amazing.
All right. Thank you, Federico, Christina, Sasha. Really appreciate your time for being with us here on the Curiosity Desk. Stay with us. Just ahead, an endurance event like no other. This is the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Harwick III. Don't go away.
With recent grads facing a tough job market, young people and even colleges are asking,
what does it mean to be educated?
I'm Kirk Carapezza. On our podcast, College Uncovered, we hear how liberal arts programs are weaving career preparation directly into the curriculum.
The number one reason why students enroll in higher ed is to get a good or better job.
Hear the whole conversation on College Uncovered, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Support for GBH comes from you. And Fixed Dental, offering permanent teeth-on implants, customized in their laboratory, enabling their doctors and technicians to oversee every aspect of the smile design. Learn more about all the treatments offered at Fixed at fixeddental.com. And Central Square Theater with The Moderate, an inside look at the experience of content moderators by Drama Desk-winning playwright Ken Urban. Begins February 6th. CentralSquareTheater.org.
back to the Curiosity Desk. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Our senior producer, Aidan Connolly, is with me now.
Hello.
Aidan, do you know who the 35th governor of Massachusetts was?
Rutherford B. Hayes, Edgar.
That is incorrect. It was Oliver Ames, born on this day, February 4th, back in 1831.
All right, cool. Happy birthday. So what was his claim to fame?
So in the late 1880s, when the temperance movement was really picking up steam, get this, he supported the work of the Massachusetts Temperance Society, but opposed a ban on alcohol.
Okay, so he really had to thread that needle.
Skilled politician. He was born and died in Easton, and the public school there is named after him.
All right. That's a fun fact from history. Thankfully, we have Gal Sieberman-Lotan with us now from the GBH newsroom for a few current stories to think about. Gal, hello.
Hello. Nice to see you all. So let's start with immigration. There are about 19,000 Haitian immigrants living in Massachusetts under a program called Temporary Protected Status that you may have heard of in recent months. A federal judge ruled this week that they can, for the time being, keep that legal permission to live and work here. And the Trump administration and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem have been trying to end that program for Haitians and for other people from across the world.
Now, that judge, Ana Reyes, had some pretty strong words in her ruling, yes?
That's right. Yeah, Judge Reyes wrote that Haitians who brought the lawsuit are claiming that, quote, Secretary Noem preordained her termination decision and did so because of hostility to non-white immigrants. This seems substantially likely. And Homeland Security is expected to appeal that ruling.
And, okay, so staying with immigration, Gal, people here have been watching what's happening in Minnesota, where ICE officers killed 2 protesters.
That's right. And so now state senators are asking how Massachusetts would react to federal agents abusing authority here. They're asking the governor and attorney general to consider prosecuting federal agents who abuse their power in Massachusetts. But even as they're looking for accountability, the senators say taking federal agents to court won't be easy.
Yeah. Okay, so arts are in the news, too. What's going on at the Museum of Fine Arts?
Yeah. So GBH reported last week that the MFA laid off 33 workers, a little more than 6% of the staff. And what's come to light since then is that the layoffs include curators who worked with Islamic art and Native American art. Now, MassArt professor Eric DeLuca is among many in the arts community who are concerned.
Many of these individuals who were laid off were hired to specifically that have been marginalized, and it's really tragic.
The MFA said it's, quote, carefully reviewing all community concerns.
All right. And you've got one more news item for us, Gal, I believe.
Yes. So heading up to Somerville, the new mayor, Jake Wilson, is holding City Hall office hours every Thursday. You can book an appointment and talk about any city issues with someone on the mayor's staff. And Wilson tells GBH he's trying to boost trust in local government.
That's one I really want to keep my eye on. I would love to find out how that goes as the office hours happen. All right, that's Gal Sieberman-Lotan. She writes the GBH Daily newsletter. You can subscribe for free at gbh.org/daily and start your day with 4 things you should know. And Aidan Connolly, senior producer of a show called The Curiosity Desk. Thank you both.
Hey, thank you.
Edgar. Good to be here.
Around Boston, people who run marathons are in good company. But right now, there is a global race underway where the runners are not running just 1 marathon, but 7 marathons. And they are doing it in 7 days on 7 continents. What? Yeah, let that sink in for a second. The World Marathon Challenge sounds insane to most of us, myself included, but our next guest has completed it. Twice. Kelly McClay lives in Beverly, where she's the founder of Fitness International Travel. Kelly, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Edgar, thank you so much for having me today.
Okay, so just on the surface, the logistics seem impossible. I mean, just to visit every continent in a week sounds crazy, let alone run a marathon when you get there. How does it all work?
It is a little bit of operational magic, but basically we all, at least when I did the trip, we all met in Cape Town, South Africa as like a launching point. And then when it's go time, when they get a weather pattern that's clear from a meteorologist in the destination that we're going to, Antarctica, because the weather in Antarctica is very temperamental, but as soon as there's a clear window, it's go time. So it's about 6 hours down to Antarctica. We land on an ice runway. And as soon as we sort of get off the plane and get ready, once that initial start line gun goes off, it's 168 hours to get around the world in 7 days.
And you said sort of we all get on the plane. Who is we all?
Each time I did it, there was about 55 of us that were going on this journey. It is an organized event. Once we land in Antarctica, and like I said, that's the start of the race. Like I think sometimes people think, oh, well, you're going to gain time or you're going to go back. No, it starts from prime meridian time and it's a countdown clock. So you have the legit 168 hours and then you fly back to Cape Town. You have a second marathon in less than 24 hours. And then after that race, you go back, gather your items that were in Cape Town, South Africa, and head to the airport to get on typically a chartered plane that will take you around the world to the rest of the destinations. So then you're off to Australia and then Dubai. And then I went to Lisbon, then Cartagena, and then I finished in Miami.
Unbelievable. So you've done this twice, as we said, 2018, 2023. How do you prepare? I mean, can you train for something like this?
I think what really helped me is I was not sleeping much because my baby was like a year old. And so I think I was just ready for spontaneity and, not keeping to a schedule because you're running at 9 p.m., you're running maybe at 2 a.m. And so I was already well trained for not sleeping.
Yeah, I was going to say, so it sounds like what you are telling me is your training for this essentially was I hadn't slept in a year because I had a young child at home.
Well, I mean, look, that's a little bit of it. And don't get me wrong. I mean, my body has seen its fair share of marathon courses, so I have a lot of muscle memory. I wouldn't recommend the training pattern that I did to go into this, but I was not saying no to running the world in 7 days.
How many marathons have you done in your life? As we said, you've done this twice, so that's 14 right there. But besides those 14, how many are we talking about?
I just in January finished my 102nd marathon.
That is insane. That is actually insane.
Yes, I guess I'm persistent. So.
Yeah, I would say. Okay, so take us into the shoes of the runners. I'm sure everybody's different, but generally speaking, what are they feeling at this point? How are they feeling physically at this point?
Yeah. I mean, every time the event goes off, it brings me right back to running the world. It is such an adrenaline rush, but it is also very waning. This transition to the fourth or the fifth leg is some of the hardest. Like it almost is like that mile 20 in a marathon because you've gotten over the excitement of landing in Antarctica and seeing the ice and doing something that alone is life-changing and once in a lifetime. And then you've come back to run a marathon that is almost a swing of 80, 90 degrees within 24 hours. And then you're jumping to the next destination. So that is like the adrenaline, excitement, first part of the race. And now you're sort of in the thick of it. Like it's all about maintenance. At this point in the race that I had done, I had some toe swelling. Typically runners on this program will bring a sneaker that's a half a size bigger because your feet swell, you're on a plane. And it's sort of a little bit of like survival.
So, marathoners talk about the importance of mental preparedness for distant events. You just talked a little bit about the physical toll, but, I wonder if you can talk us through a little bit about what happens psychologically for you over the course of this week. Did it surprise you? Were you ready for it?
I think, in the sense for me is that mental strength is something I'm very good at in this sense. It was tested to the max. And these are not races. It's not the Boston Marathon. And you don't have the crowds cheering you on. And sometimes it can get really lonely at night or the weather, it's raining and you just want to sleep or you didn't get to eat the right food. And so all of that is really a mental game at that point to keep putting one foot in front of the other and to run through the night. And, on your fourth or fifth marathon or maybe the fifth or sixth, you still have another 26.2 miles the next day.
You mentioned the locations where you run for this incredible race, Antarctica, Perth, Dubai. These are incredible places to visit. And as you've said, your business is all about travel. When you're running these marathons at these places, are you able to take in anything of the places that you're visiting?
Not on this one. This is definitely about the adventure of, doing the back-to-backs. And there's quite often not enough time. You have, I think on average, I had 8 to 11 hours in between destinations to regroup, find some food, but there's not enough time to get an umbrella drink and do a tour.
And you're not sleeping in a hotel each night?
No, quite often, like the plane is your like medical recovery, your Band-Aids, your Vaseline, your stretching, your yoga. It is your like changing, your wardrobe. So you're mostly sleeping on the plane.
All right, so let's get serious for a minute. Give us the dirt. What was, in either one of these races, the lowest point for you? Was there a moment where you were like, you know what? Not going to happen.
Yes, for sure. It was Lisbon on the first one. It was a rainy night. We weren't able to start until about 10 o'clock at night. I hadn't eaten really enough. And I just remember the race in Lisbon. It was only the 5th marathon, so I knew I still had 6 and 7 coming up. And I just got back to the room. There was no food. It was like 4 a.m. I knew I had to be up at 7. My ankles were swollen. My toenail was falling off. I mean, again, I'm the one who decided to do this, and it was a great adventure, but that was a low point where I thought, I don't know how I'm going to pull it together to run tomorrow.
How did you do it? How did you pull it together?
I mean, I wasn't going to give up. I mean, I think that's what all of us runners and especially endurance athletes, like we have, like we're going to try, we're going to get ourselves to the start line. That's what I love about that sport. And, if I had to crawl, I would have before I, took myself out of the race. So,
you mentioned the other runners, there's 50 plus of you. And as you said, you're sort of spread out on the course. Do you develop a rapport with them? Does it become a community during that time period, or is this like a solitary endeavor, you versus you?
No, absolutely. And you're cheering everybody on. Like the first time I did it, that night in Lisbon, all of us were struggling. Like there's a picture of us at the start. It was like, tell me you're miserable without telling me you're miserable. And all of us are just, the start line photo is so sad. But Brett Parker was on that trip, and he has Parkinson's, and he runs for Michael J. Fox Foundation, and he is just incredible, example of fortitude and perseverance. And he was struggling with, decreased immune system, and there he was out there, and we were going over for some reason the course was also along a dock, and there were some boards that were moving, and it was raining, and there was cobblestones, and your legs are already worn from 5 days, and Brett was there, and it was one of those moments that always sits there with me, that he's out there with Parkinson's, and we can just always do more than we think we can. And so that will resonate with me. And then the last time I did it in 2023, I'm still on a chat with all these people, and we meet up, and we have such camaraderie in different destinations around the world. I've had some of those teammates join me in London and in Tokyo and in Sydney. So it's really just a wonderful reunion of friendships and this experience that we had bonding and running the world together.
As somebody who has had a once-in-a-lifetime experience twice by doing this twice, what was different the second time you did it, if anything?
I know. And my husband does remind me that these moments were meant to be once in a lifetime.
You're like, yeah, but what about twice? But what if I did it twice?
Hey, if I got a call right now,
you would do it a third time? No doubt.
Run it in a heartbeat. I think the difference is I knew what to expect. So it was almost a little bit, in one way you think, well, that's going to make it better prepared. But I think almost knowing the pain hole that you're heading into makes it a little bit harder, because you have that loss of naivety. But also, what made the second time different was the people. The flight was different for me on the second one. So the first time we had an all business class seat, which almost laid down, 75% lay down seats. So that was really helpful. The second time, I actually took a spot on the bulkhead floor, and we had these awesome pump up mats that I was, yeah, it was fantastic. I should send you some photos to share, but I still have that pump up mat. And a lot of us, we just felt like we really earned it. It was really gritty, and it's just amazing.
What about it, if anything, surprised you? Did it meet your expectations? Did it exceed your expectations? Did it confound your expectations?
Oh, I mean, look, you're talking this beats straight to my heartstrings. So I can't imagine. I mean, running marathons is a passion project for me. It has been part of my life for many years now. Running has brought me out of some very hard spots and really given me back the world. It turned my passion into my profession. So I think this was the ultimate adventure for me as someone who loves to travel and loves to run and loves the camaraderie of these events and destinations. So for me, like I said, if I got the call tomorrow, I would be on that plane in a heartbeat.
That's Kelly McClay, a runner in Beverly, owner of the company Fitness International Travel. She is a past finisher of a race where runners do 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days. This year's event is more than halfway done. Good luck to you runners out there. And I am now joined by a runner himself, the one and only Jared Bowen, host of The Culture Show and really serious runner.
Well, I have been in the past, not as serious as you were just talking about, though, Edgar.
Have you ever done like a marathon or a big long race?
I've done 2 marathons, and I will tell you, the first marathon I did, one of the women who helped me train was Becca Peasy, who in 2016 was the first American to do the World Marathon Challenge.
Oh, amazing.
She is incredible. I remember her running alongside me. I think she was about 6 months pregnant at the time. Here I am. And I was pretty well trained, but she was like a machine, just going. But she helped get me through, along with my friend Bethany Edwards, the 2 of them. That's what you need when you're doing marathon training.
What an incredible story. All right. What's on The Culture Show today, up in just a few minutes?
So we're going to be talking to Jeff Taylor. You might remember that name. He's the force behind Monster.com, who now has launched BoomBand. So Monster.com changed the game for hiring back in the 90s, and BoomBand is now using AI as we look at the job search and getting people out of the miredness of AI.
Yeah.
We'll talk to MassArt President Mary Grant about the Hirshhorn Museum loaning works all across the United States. Also, the protest art that's surfacing in this moment, especially in Minneapolis. And they have a new initiative here at the Boston Public Library for this year, Blind Date with a Book. It's something that's been happening every year, but it's back. You can have a blind date with a book. You don't know what you're getting, but you can date it.
Very excellent. Sounds like a great show. Stay with us for The Culture Show in just a few minutes. And don't forget Can Dogs Talk tonight at 9 on GBH2 and the Nova YouTube channel. That's it for us for now. The Curiosity Desk is produced by an incredible team. We'll be back in 23 short hours right here on GBH 89 and streaming live on YouTube. Until then, I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. You stay curious out there.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show. Next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you. And Babson College, where you can advance specialized masters at the school ranked #2 best college in the United States by the Wall Street Journal 2025. Babson.edu/grad programs. In a 5-part series narrated by Sir David Attenborough, follow animals' parents as they balance risk and reward to raise their young. Watch the premiere of Nature, Parenthood, tonight at 8 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Culture Show news desk, I'm Henry Santoro. It was so cold last night.
How cold was it?
It was a 3-dog night. And that's just how the 1960s band 3 Dog Night got its name. A girlfriend of one of the band members suggested the name 3 Dog Night after reading an article about Indigenous Australians that said on cold nights they would sleep in a hole in the ground with 2 dogs snuggled in beside them. And if the night was freezing cold like it was last night, it was a 3 Dog Night.
No,
Why this news now? Well, because Three Dog Night lead singer and founding member Chuck Negron, the one with the big burly mustache, passed away on Monday.
'Cause one is the loneliest number that you'll ever do.
Negron died of complications from heart failure at his home in the Studio City neighborhood of Los Angeles. Also sang lead on Joy to the World, Easy to Be Hard, The Show Must Go On, among many other of their big hits. Chuck Negron dead at 83. And while we're on the subject of dogs, well, sort of, congratulations are in order for Penny, the Doberman Pinscher. She won Best in Show last night at the Westminster Kennel Dog Club show, taking home the most prized trophy in all of the U.S. dog shows.
For Best in Show at the 150th Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show is the Doberman Pinscher.
Nearly 3,000 dogs competed for a spot in the dog show. Came down to 7 finalists, with Penny beating the other 6 at New York's Madison Square Garden. She's the first Doberman to win the Westminster show since 1989. Who's a good girl? And don't forget to tune in to Nova on PBS Channel 2 tonight for an amazing feature titled Can Dogs Talk?
Mishka, I love you.
Sam, say, I love you.
I love you.
Say, I love you.
That's this edition of the GBH News Weekly Wednesday Afternoon Culture Cast. I'm Henry Santoro. Next up, The Culture Show with my friend and yours, Jared Bowen, live at the Boston Public Library.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, circling classified ads with a pen, mailing resumes, waiting by the phone. That was the job search until the 1990s, when Jeff Taylor changed everything by founding Monster.com. He moved the job hunt from the back pages of the newspaper to the internet. Now Taylor is back, reinventing the job search for a moment when bots take the first crack in the thrill of the job hunt. Then Ralph Ellison said he didn't see a dichotomy between art and protest. Today, across the country, artists are responding to ICE policies with an outpouring of creative resistance, from protest songs to poems to graphic art. Mary Grant, president of MassArt, joins us to talk about the art of dissent. And we're used to finding dates by swiping, judging a face, a vibe, personal interests. But what if you had to choose with almost nothing to go on? That's the idea behind the Boston Public Library's annual Blind Date with a Book, where books are hidden beneath brown wrapping. No covers, no authors to clue you in, just the thrill of discovery and seeing where the story takes you. That's all right now on The Culture Show.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show live on 89.7 from the Boston Public Library studio and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. If you've ever searched for a job online, you've been experiencing the influence of Jeff Taylor, the founder of Monster.com. When Monster launched in the 1990s, it moved job listings out of newspaper classifieds and onto the internet, changing both how people looked for work and how employers reached applicants. Now Taylor is back with a new job search platform called BoomBand, powered by AI. He joins us to talk about a new age of job hunting, how he plans to better connect job seekers and employers, how we can enter the human in an AI world, and how Monster.com's monstrous success has informed this endeavor. Welcome to The Culture Show.
Thanks. Excited to be here.
Well, this is exciting for a lot of people who are having difficulty finding jobs. We keep hearing this more and more, that everybody's defaulted to AI, and it's harder and harder and harder for the job seekers to reach the employers. Is this something that you recognized in launching BoomBand?
Yeah, I think the first thing is just there's a reflection out there right now. Everybody knows somebody that's out of work, and maybe for the last 2 or 3 generations of people working, there's always been low supply and high demand, so there were always jobs. This is one of the first environments where you have a disruption like AI, which is getting a lot of the headlines, and you also have high supply and low demand. So it's counterintuitive, but it's a really interesting time to think about starting a new company, and that's what BoomBand is.
And so tell me how is this a new iteration of Monster.com?
Yeah. So I guess I started using ChatGPT in about May or June of 2023, and I realized very quickly that for the first time that this system understood context and could work with the English language in different ways. And what I discovered was, I'll bet this is the first time since I started Monster where I could turn what I call the sweatshirt inside out and look at it in new ways. And the failing tools, I did a audit of the competitors in the space. Most are still using the patents that I created 30 years ago. And Monster was a big part of a disruption with the World Wide Web and the internet. And one of the things I've been excited about is 30 years later, there hasn't been much change. And so the resume is sort of at end of life. I think people know that, kind of the kind of keywords and performance statements. It's almost unrecognizable to like a person like me or you. And so I think the resume is failing us. The applicant tracking systems and the internal systems inside the corporation are basically overwhelmed by like look-alike candidates caused by AI, and the early feature allows you to take a job posting, use it sort of like a cheat sheet or an open book test, and then take your resume, put it in ChatGPT or Claude, whatever you use, and make them look very similar. So all of those very similar resumes are now coming into the companies, which is basically sort of melting down the current systems.
So how does BoomBand work? And this is getting back to what I mentioned in the introduction, I would assume, which is getting to the human part of all of this, so that companies can separate the individuals and the individual talent from the cut and paste AI cover letters.
So what I realized is that AI is an incredible matching tool, but its ability to match has everything to do with what it has to match. And so a resume, it's French, it means summary. AI doesn't want a summary of your life. AI wants a lot more information about your life, right? And the same thing with the job posting. The job posting, it's not French, but it is also a summary. So there's a whole job description, there's a hiring manager intake form, there's old job postings, there's people doing that job, all that can contribute to make a more valuable job posting. We call it a job signal. And to bring your resume to life, we call it a dossier. The whole idea now is, what are your passions? What are your interests? What are your side hustles? What are your collections? What are the things you're doing now? And what is your target? What do you want to do? We're so used to matching against your old track record. How many times are you using one of the job board sites and they're sending you a lead for a job that was something you did 10 years ago or 6 years ago? What are you doing now, and what do you want to do? And that's what I want to capture in our dossier. So the main hub, I'll share a picture that you could share, but the main hub is sort of like your cover. And then you go north, it's your job experience, your commercial experience. You go south, it's your life work. I heard right before we came on the air, they were talking about the runners.
Yes.
And so my COOs run 50 marathons and 20 triathlons, Ironmans, right? And so if you look at the grit, the determination, the ability to achieve a goal, the negotiation with his wife to do all of those races, those are all skills that are nowhere today. And so what I want to do is I want to include those so that we have an area on our dossier, which is called the Power Lab. It takes all of your life work and your commercial work, puts them together, creates the opportunity to share all of those in the attributes and skills.
I would assume that you've been working with employers too, who
I
are
have.
telling you, look, this is what I really want, this is what I need, and are they open to considering these other elements of a person's life, like their marathon history?
Sure. The main thing is, look, if you're a huge Patriots fan and the hiring manager is a Patriots fan, you have to be careful with that because that would be bias, right? If there were other good candidates that were Patriots fans. But if you could talk about the skills and the abilities associated with being a incredible Patriots fan, there are things that are about what you're like that you would love to have somebody jump into the servers of your company or whatever. So when I look to the companies and I'm talking with them, what they're telling me is we cannot keep doing it the same way. We realize that. We're going to have to open our minds here. The idea of having a much richer job signal that I can put into a marketplace and I can match the top quality candidates. So that's what our arena does. So I would say not much has changed in 30 years, yet everything is desperately in need of change.
What has brought you back to this? That you had this profound success with Monster.com, and now you're revisiting 30 years later the same territory.
Yeah, so I'm an entrepreneur. And I'm an idea generator, but I'm also a CEO. I stick and get the job done, and that's what I did with Monster. I had an opportunity to go work for Ray Dalio, who runs the biggest hedge fund in the world. I worked with him for 10 years, and I had an incredible learning experience. He was very hard on me, but he was a very interested in what people are like. So I brought a whole new skill set out of that experience over 10 years. And then the whole arc of Monster, including why I exited. I had an agreement to buy LinkedIn, and my board turned it down. And so that's why I left. And so I had an opportunity now to come back around full circle 30 years later. I'm really still relevant. I've created a startup. We've raised money. We're headquartered in Charlestown, Rhode Island. I live in Matunic. And so I grew up in Boston. I went to UMass. I did OPM at Harvard Business School. I'm a Boston guy who now lives in Rhode Island. So New England is my home. I launched Monster here, and I'm going to launch BoomBand here.
If you're just tuning in, I'm speaking with Jeff Taylor, an entrepreneur and founder of Monster.com. His latest endeavor is the job search platform BoomBand. As you look at this moment in AI, everybody's having similar conversations, parallel conversations. Yes, there's lots of opportunity, but there's a lot of fear that AI is going to reduce jobs.
Yep.
As you're using AI to connect people into jobs, how are you looking at what you see coming down the pike in terms of the AI impact on jobs?
So, some people are like, I'm so sick of hearing about AI. I remember this stage with the internet when I was walking around Boston talking to companies about Monster, and I would spend the whole meeting talking about the internet, right? And so without actually needing to go into the Jurassic period to support this, I think there's a lot of buzz about AI. There's a lot of people that are over it and saying, I don't know, I don't understand it. I have a lot of anxiety about it. So let's talk about what I see as real. I think AI is actually already taken some jobs, and I think that that's what people are aware of. I hear in conversations, I feel bad for the customer service reps. I feel bad for some of the creative people, but my job will be okay. And I'm always like, okay, make a pie chart of all the things you do in your job. Think honestly about each piece of your pie chart. Could AI either assist you or could it do that work? And if a lot of your work is scheduling, if a lot of your work is research, these are areas that AI first will be a great helper, a great buddy with you, and everyone is experiencing that, I think, with ChatGPT, or I use Anthropic's Claude, which I really like. And I think AI is going to keep eating tasks. And so I think that means it's going to keep putting pressure on different roles. I think each generation has challenges. The Gen Z group, the companies are sort of stuck right now in pilots and trying to figure out what's going to happen. They've slowed down entry-level hiring. They're not quite sure why, but they think it's going to be because AI is going to take some of those jobs. So that's pressure on Gen Z. That's pressure on the over 100 colleges here in New England. And then I look at the mid-market, those kind of millennial professors and that what I would call the fat middle. They become managers. The pandemic was the first time you saw that pointed out. Being an over-the-shoulder manager just wasn't very relevant when we were during the pandemic. I think since then, management has changed. I think some of those jobs are at risk in the middle market. And any boomer that's out of work right now would kind of call out ageism, but the reality is it's just really hard to get a job right now. And there's a lot of weighing of factors as companies are looking to hire. I think there's still being jobs created. I think there's going to be new jobs in data science and in specific areas around AI. Somebody talked about all the power plants being built to support AI. Each of those power plants will hire 2,500 to 4,000 employees while they're building. But those power plants only need 150 to 250 people to run them. So that's a short-term opportunity for electricians and builders. But the reality is they are not going to create a lot of jobs. So I think there's going to be more AI pressure going forward.
If you're talking about that pie, and I think in my own life, what I've witnessed and have come to understand, including my own job, because we know that there are quote-unquote on-air personalities that are just bots that sound exactly like I could sound. They could adjust my voice and sound just like me. And the last time I went to a doctor's office, I saw the doctor use AI, and I realized this is everywhere. Right. It's across all classes, all sectors. It's everywhere. Is there a hope on your part?
Yeah.
Well, I would assume there's an expectation on your part because you're launching this, that there will be new growth opportunity. You mentioned data services, but where else do you see that growing?
Well, so let's just first talk about the problem with your resume today with these keywords and performance statements is we've gotten away from what it is to be human and what are the stories that made you who you are. When you build a resume, you start with a story about your life. You make it a paragraph, then a sentence, and then a little phrase, and then maybe a keyword. And all that makes it onto the resume is the keyword, right? What I want to do is get back and tell the story, and I want to embrace those stories and wrap those stories around a picture of what you like. So that's important because now I think what we're going to see is the skills that are so hot right now. Like, do you have Python skills, or do you have marketing skills for this new AI age? What I think is going to happen is these skills are going to continue to get eaten by AI. Then I think it's going to come into more soft and character skills. Your ability to be open-minded, your ability to problem solve, be a critical thinker, be creative. There's hope for the history and English majors out there, and also for on-air personalities, because that's the human factor. And so it's going to become a very important job for us to manage this process. We're going to have the equivalent, I don't like calling them digital employees, but we're going to have an agentic layer that's going to be right along with us. And we're going to need to use our soft skills, our ability to solve problems to help and become like a 3x to 10x performance employee. And that's what the pressure is going to be over the next 5 to 10 years.
Is your focus just on the United States, or is this something that will be universally accepted and embraced internationally?
Yeah, I love this. So my focus is on Boston and New England. I'm launching here. There's about 8 million what I call players in the Boston marketplace, greater Boston. And so I'm going to focus here first, then I'll launch New York and New Jersey. Ultimately, by the end of this year, we're going to launch in the United States. I think this will be a global product, but I want to make sure I get it right. I have some DNA of learning in the way I did this the first time. Somebody said, well, that was 30 years ago, it's different. Well, building a brand and taking an idea to market is timeless. The question is just what tools you use. And so, I don't know, if you've come into the city, you may see BoomBand billboards north and south and west coming in and out of the city. I'm using old school messaging, something I learned from Red Bull 20 years ago. I don't know if you would remember this, but Red Bull put Red Bulls on these billboards around the city. That was it. And so that my kind of compliment to that is I have BoomBand billboards around the city.
Why is there still a place for analog like this?
So what I think is brand touches are still critical. And what they say is you may touch 300 to 400 brands in an average day, right? And so if you're going to get somebody to know what we do, it starts with the name. It starts with the name Monster. Can I talk about BoomBand for a second?
That's why I had that right here to ask you.
So BoomBand comes from the Dr. Seuss book, Oh, the Places You'll Go. And in that book, near the end, it says, don't go to the waiting place, waiting for your hair to grow and the snow to snow. Go where the boom bands are playing. And I always got to that point in the story, and I was like, yes, that is where I'm going, and that's probably a pretty good description of my life. And one of the things, ideas don't have an age associated with them. And so for me, as a more mature entrepreneur, it's been so fun to be out, talking to the VCs, what they're expecting to come through the door and what comes through the door are two different things, and building that partnership with Boston Seed and with Rogue and with Slater and others that are coming into our picture. It's been really exciting to be an entrepreneur in this space and to launch BoomBand. The other thing is that BoomBand in the top 8 languages, boom is just spelled B-O-O-M, and it's an energized, explosive moment. And Monster was sort of like that too. And so the reward of naming Monster has encouraged me through my life to name brands in that way, and that's where the name BoomBand comes from.
Well, this has been a fascinating conversation. Optimism, reality check, all of it. Thank you so much, and congratulations on your launch.
Yeah, this is beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Taylor is an entrepreneur and founder of Monster.com. His latest endeavor is the job search platform BoomBand, straight from Dr. Seuss. Again, thank you. Coming up, the art of dissent, how poets, singers, and graphic designers are challenging threats to democracy with creative resistance. Mary Grant, president of MassArt, joins us for that conversation. She's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
I'm Arun Roth. Today on GBH's All Things Considered, local industries that rely on Haitian workers and Haitians are breathing a sigh of relief after a judge blocked the Trump administration from ending their protected status. Why Minneapolis's history with body cameras on police shows it's not a cure-all. And can dogs talk? That's the question Nova set out to answer. We'll hear what they discovered and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you. And CrowdStreet, a platform providing individual investors direct access to private equity, private credit, and real estate. Learn more at crowdstreet.com. And Mass General Brigham. In heart surgery, expertise matters. Mass General Brigham Heart and Vascular Institute performs thousands of surgeries each year and is committed to research and innovation. massgeneralbrigham.org/heart. And Cambridge School of Culinary Arts in Porter Square, offering private cooking events for your next team-building activity, family reunion, birthday party, or night out. You can learn more at cambridgeculinary.com.
Have a tip? Confidentially contact GBH News on the Signal app. Visit gbhnews.org/investigations to learn more. gbhnews.org/investigations.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, live on 89.7 from our studio at the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. It's time for a recurring feature, AI Actual Intelligence, where we tap into the most interesting thinkers in our region because their insights and observations are totally original and algorithm-free. Today I'm joined by Mary Grant, president of MassArt, who joins us every month. It's great to see you.
Good to see you as well. Happy to be here.
And of course, as we just learned in the last segment, AI can be good, and we can also have other conversations.
That's
so
right.
We're talking about the full balance on the show today. Let me just start by asking you about some news that's come out of the Museum of Fine Arts over the last week, which is a number of layoffs there. That is not surprising given what we've seen for cultural institutions, GBH included, over the last year. The cuts at the MFA involved some curators, particularly from the Islamic art department, fashion, and Native American art, as well as the MFA Teens program. We won't identify people. I think people can figure out who they are. The MFA is not releasing that information because it's a matter of personnel issues. But a group of faculty and librarians from your school, from MassArt, issued a letter saying that while they understand that this is a critical moment and these things need to happen, they wish that it could be reconsidered because they quote that there's a backlash against hard-won progress, especially when you consider curators of these departments in particular and who they represent in the BIPOC community. This, again, is faculty and librarians. It didn't come from your office, but what are you seeing in this moment and this call for the MFA to reconsider its actions?
Sure. I mean, I think, first of all, I think there's such a climate of unsettlement across the country with everything that's happening now. We have seen educational institutions, cultural institutions really struggling and actually under direct assault. So there's a bigger environment. And I think that, as we've seen in the cultural sector, they have not come back from COVID. Any institution that's driven by ticket sales, it's been difficult on their business model. Layoffs at the Metropolitan Opera, smalls, bigs, and then right here in our own neighborhood, really painful. And I have so much respect and regard for my faculty and librarians. They're also proud members of a union, and so in terms of looking at other folks in the neighborhood who are sometimes part of union organizations, and these are personal. This is a small neighborhood. They've taught with these folks, they've worked with these folks, so this is one of those things where in a cultural community, these individuals. So I think it was a sense of how do we lift our voices up, how do we support these good colleagues, but also understanding and appreciating the difficult time that cultural institutions, even one as strong and mighty as the MFA is in this moment. And so, that's the important point of having the ability for faculty to lift their voices at times when they feel that they must.
And we should be clear that the MFA has said that these departments are not ending, the
Right.
team programs are not ending.
Correct.
Again, there is concern about the individuals who are let go because of their communities. As you take a bird's eye view at this, and we saw what progressed, especially since the pandemic, since the murder of George Floyd, and there was a reassessment in so many cultural institutions, in theater, in museums, about the stories that were not being told, about the people who were not being given jobs, people who were not allowed on boards, who didn't have a voice on stage, as it were, or behind the scenes. Is it going to be hard to keep up those gains?
I think that those gains are imperative for us to keep up. I think that they will be hard because there's a challenge, and there's, at the federal level, certainly institutions that receive federal funding are being threatened by keeping up those gains. Think about the scrutiny that the Smithsonian's been put under to go through and look at this. Look at what's happened in Philadelphia with removing works of art. So just as there's that much pressure, we have to be able to hold the ground, because if we continue with this process of erasing stories, that's where we lose the knowledge of how much progress we have made, how much is at stake, and what we stand to lose. So I think that we're going to continue to feel this, but I also think institutions are trying their very best to keep leading with these. If you look at some of the shows that are happening around the country, they're not backing away from them. They're finding new ways to express it, to reach audiences, to maintain that. But we cannot lose that at all.
Well, part of the reason we can't lose it is something we want to talk to you about, which is what artists are doing right now in this moment as they're calling out infringement that the administration is waging, especially in Minneapolis. We see the protests that are happening. We see the song that is happening. People are marching in hundreds of people at a time in voice, in terms of singing. There's one signage company, a graphic design company, whose sales are up 600%. We've talked about this before, but in this very specific moment, what is the role of art as we see it coalescing and forming?
It is, if you look at what's happening in Minneapolis, it is about everybody playing to their strength. This is a frightening time, a terrifying time in communities across the country, and in Minneapolis in particular, where we've seen this epicenter. So it's everybody figuring out, what can I do in this moment? Artists are talking about putting their bodies on the line, about being out there helping to protect vulnerable communities, and about the tools that they have, because not everybody is going to feel comfortable doing that, nor should they. But the ability to create signs, to do banners, and what these artists are doing, whether it's the letterpress printers, they're using the profits from that, and they're giving the money to immigrant right groups, to law firms that are supporting these legal actions right now, to helping these families that are struggling. So it's also using the resources from the creative product to turn it back in to supporting the very families that are being most horrified during these times. So you're seeing that. It's also about strength in numbers, Jared. The singing that's happening, that's right out of, I think it was the Estonia Revolution playbook, where communities finding ways through song to exercise their right to lift their voices. And you cannot accuse groups that are walking through the streets singing of being anything but peaceful protesters. So I think it's strength, it's about solidarity. Institutions that are out there are talking about that this is deeply empowering their community in a sense of neighbors, that these are people from every walk of life coming out at this moment to support the people who are being most victimized and marginalized at this time. So it's the signage, it's the songs, it's the poetry, it's grabbing our national attention over this too in ways, because what we hear is it's so much more terrifying on the ground. And so as the word is coming out through visual representation, whether it's songs by Bruce Springsteen's or poems by Amanda Gorman, it is coming out and helping capture the attention of maybe people who haven't been paying attention in the way that they should.
And I wonder about that in addition to the empowerment you were just talking about and how long-lasting it is. I've been thinking for the last couple of weeks how much of the history we know of this country, or world history for that matter, is told in art. Not all of it, of course, but it's right there. It's part of the story in each element of history, whether you look at what was happening and coming out of concentration camps, or you look at the AIDS crisis and certainly the artists rallying, especially there because it was so much of their community. But the arts don't always only surface out of those moments. They stay and they become recorded, and we know them.
That's right. They tell a story, good or bad, of what's happening in our history. And so that is also why the work of museums and curatorial cultural institutions are so important. Libraries, museums, cultural centers, colleges and universities, they're the keepers of the history. And they're the ones that, help us, because we have to know our history. The ugly parts of it, the joyous parts of it, it's the whole story. And artists have always done, whether you look at political posters over there going, as far back as the Abraham Lincoln's time, or look at what happened when we put people to work in FDR's administration, where artists were put to work telling the stories of cities and towns across the Commonwealth.
The Works Progress Administration.
Yes, beautiful works of art, but told a story of a period of time.
When you think about this and you see who's turning out right now, and you think of the image that people often blanket artists with is they're not as strong as the rest of us. I think that's a myth that's placed on artists because they're focused on arts and culture and things that deeply resonate with us, and yet they're the ones, as you just say, who are coming out right now, and they know the peril for which they're coming out.
They know the peril, and they're also, I've never met anybody that works harder than an artist. So there is strength, there's temerity, there's resilience, there is rejection. You were told no a lot when you were an artist, but you always come back. And I think that it's digging deep into those qualities that make you a strong artist and a strong member of your community. And some of the artists are saying that, yes, and an artist is my identity, but a neighbor is my identity here as well too. So I am doing both of those things, and it matters, critically matters right now. So huge strength in artists in every community, and they are brave and think about how quickly they turn things around. A work of art overnight of something so awesome, or Amanda Gorman putting words on paper overnight reflecting such pain. There's a brilliance there, and yet a hopefulness that turns that creative energy into something that makes it accessible to all of us.
It's not always a bad thing to be underestimated.
Correct. That's right. That's right.
I'm speaking with MassArt President Mary Grant. Let's move to some good news now, and good news, wonderfully for once, coming out of the Smithsonian, which is the Hirshhorn Museum, which has a collection that ranges from John Singer Sargent all the way to the most contemporary art. is engaging in a program working with Crystal Bridges, a museum I happen to love, not only because it's free, but because they do loan works out across the country as part of this wonderful Bridges lending program, but they are partnering up with the Hirshhorn. How is the entire country going to be the beneficiary of this?
This is such a great initiative. So it's, 50 states, 50 pieces, and who knows, maybe there'll be more than that, but it's going into their permanent collection in pieces. So I think the Hirshhorn has something like over 13,000 pieces of work in its collection, and 2% of it's on display at any time. That's like 260 pieces. So there's a lot of really important, cool stuff never seen or only seen on occasion. So to go into that collection and work with museums around the country to be able to provide extraordinary pieces of work by some artists that might never show up in those small communities, shares the collection, makes it accessible. It could also help drive foot traffic into some of these museums in smaller, under-resourced communities by, if you have an extraordinary Francis Bacon or something like that, people may come in and see it. So driving foot traffic, and also in honor of the 250th anniversary of the country, really looking at how the Smithsonian, one of our most historic arts and cultural institutions, makes the art more accessible to people across the country. It's really cool.
I was struck by the example of the smaller institutions that you were talking about. I know in a place like Idaho, which I think has one nationally accredited museum for displaying arts of this nature, where you have masterpieces, Jackson Pollock or Francis Bacon, as you talked about. That in tandem with the federal funding cuts that we've talked about, the layoffs that we just talked about with the Museum of Fine Arts. In other words, some museums are struggling greatly. I wonder if this is the beginning of a new model for museums and galleries in this country, where we will now start to see more partnership. Yes, this may only be 3 paintings coming into their collection, and we should point out this would be for a 3-year loan, which is pretty significant. It's not there for a couple of weeks and then it goes back. This is basically here to stay for 3 years. Does this begin to change, or suggest that changes afoot about how museums will operate?
It would be a wonderful thing if that is the case, and I think it's a really important model, because what the foundation's doing in this case is it's covering the cost of shipping, insurance, the things that are really important when you are moving around extraordinary works of art that exceeds the ability of budgets at small places. So for these larger institutions to be able to make their collection available, and for foundations to step in and say, there's a piece we can do here too. We're not, we're not building your endowment, we're not doing other things like that, but we're making this accessible. And they're also going to provide funding to help build educational programs out around this. So some of the things that can be a heavier lift when you're a small place trying to figure out how to get it all done, small staff, allows you to really do a high quality bit of programming around an important piece of work. And you don't have to worry about, oh my God, how do we ensure this important piece of work? So I think it's a very creative model, and these works of art that are in the collection at big museums, why not share them with the rest of the world? It's important. We need it right now.
Why not bring it into people's neighborhoods, which is happening?
Yes.
If you're in Idaho, it's not inexpensive to travel to Washington, D.C. to see some of this world-class art.
That's right.
All right, well, we're doing a lot of careening. Good to bad, good to bad.
Yeah, that's right.
The Kennedy Center.
Yeah.
Now that we understand that something is afoot, the president has said that there's going to be a renovation. Some people are interpreting this to be a gut renovation, because he said he'll keep some of the steel and marble. As you see this emblem of arts and culture in this country being talked about in this way, how are you interpreting this moment?
It's the Kennedy Center was renovated in 2019. $250 million was spent in just a few years ago. And it was under a program to help with performance spaces, community access. A lot of resources were done on this. It is hard not to see this as anything but continued work on erasing some of these important cultural institutions. And the Kennedy family themselves, reading it in the paper, have said that yes, this center is critically important, but the legacy of JFK is much more than a building. It is about hope. It is about the investment in arts and culture. But the Kennedy Center is a huge symbolic representation of all of this. And you think about, the business models that have been struggling at other institutions we just talked about. Certainly, the Kennedy Center has seen a decrease in attendance with the shift over this last year. So is it a response to that? But I certainly think it has folks really scratching their heads about, what does this this mean? What is this going to reopen? We know what we've read in the paper, that the staff that are there, they're kind of in the dark. They've received a message, and for them, this is where they show up every day and do this work. So let's hope that this is not a gut. Maybe it is trying to improve the ventilation system and improve the facility. That would be a wonderful outcome. But I think that, the jury's out on what's happening, but it certainly is following on a string, going after this critically important legacy institution that has elevated arts and culture in the country.
How do you look at a moment like this? I'm thinking the conversation I just had with Jeff Taylor, who looked at accessing jobs with Monster.com, and 30 years later, he's now doing it in a vastly different way, knowing that Monster.com, that can't just stand. Life changes. We talk about cities changing all the time. How do we look at this moment and what we need to hold on to and what we need to understand is going to change?
So I have to just tell you a little story. So last night I had dinner with a group of students, and in the course of the conversation, and it was sit down with students, and this is not the whole world, so a small sample, but one of the students looked at me and said, we, the Generation Zers, we're an analog generation. We want to be back in touch with things. We want to be in community. We want to be reading books. We are getting rid of our digital watches. There is a shift that is happening. Small pockets, maybe it's within creative communities, where they are craving being in community with each other. They want to be looking at real works of art. They want to know their whole history. So I think we have such important work to do in education, arts, and culture to continue to support and elevate this generation that is coming up and coming through. And we have to maintain that hope as an active daily occurrence, because we have to make sure that we don't lose these places like the Kennedy Center, or that we don't bury things away in collections, that we are supporting cultural institutions and we are deepening those relationships. So I think in this time, Jared, it's like what's happening, but on a less dramatic scale in Minneapolis right now, where artists are going to work, where communities are coming together. They are saying there is so much at stake right now, and we need one another, and we have to keep pushing forward.
And those students you were talking to, I assume they're in their late teens, early 20s?
They are in their early 20s. Yep, they're in their early 20s, and they are like, we want to make art, we want to be playing board games, and we want to be reading books and looking at art and being with one another. As one of them said to me, I was in junior high school, freshman year in high school during the pandemic. We were locked away for 2 years. We do not ever want to do that together. We want to be with real people doing real things every day. So that's, again, small sample, but I remain hopeful when I get to work with this generation, because they are paying attention.
They certainly are, and we feel it, which is a great thing. Mary Grant, thank you so much for being here, as always.
Thank
Look forward
you,
to seeing
Jared.
you next month.
Okay, thanks so much.
Mary Grant is the president of MassArt, and she joins us regularly. Coming up, a literary leap of faith right here at the Boston Public Library. It's Blind Date with a Book. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
Let the games begin. This week, the 2026 Winter Olympics get started in Italy. They are coming, though, with a dose of controversy. Construction projects are clouded by allegations of corruption.
Actually, it has been the norm until now, this non-transparency and almost complete unaccountability.
Hear that story next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And the Massachusetts Health Connector for Business. Premium value plans can help small business owners find and offer accessible employee health benefits. Learn more at mahealthconnector.org/business. And Johnson & Wales University, believing that higher education should be accessible to all. Details on the new JWU pledge at jwu.edu. And the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra. Benjamin Zander conducts Mozart's dramatic 20th Piano Concerto with acclaimed pianist Christian Bezuidenhout and Bruckner's majestic 7th Symphony at Symphony Hall, February 13th at 8. bostonphil.org.
GBH News is your home for trusted local news. Get it at 89.7 on the radio, gbhnews.org, and subscribe to the GBH News YouTube channel. GBH News, what matters to you.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show live on 89.7 from our studio at the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. You can't judge a book by its cover, and once a year, the Boston Public Library puts that adage to the test. For its program, Blind Date with a Book, librarians wrap all manner of books in brown wrapping paper, hiding all the information we normally use when browsing for books, the author's name, the blurbs, and that all-important cover. Instead, you're given just a few clues, a genre, a tone, a vibe. You check it out sight unseen, take it home, and let the story begin. Joining us to talk about this annual event is Veronica Koven-Matasy, Reader Services Director for the Boston Public Library. I messed up your last name, didn't I?
It's all right. Koven-Matasy.
Koven-Matasy, thank you. Welcome back to the Culture Show. It's great to see you.
Thank you so much for having me. I love coming to visit you all the time.
Well, we love having you here, and I have to say I'm so enchanted by this concept. I think in part because I don't want to give too much away, but I do the Literary Lights event every year here, and it introduces me to all of these new authors. And one of the great fortunes of that event is that there's a pile of books on every table. It celebrates the special collections here at the Boston Public Library, and I take them home, and it wouldn't be people that I had been introduced to before or that I might ordinarily pick up, and I can't tell you how many authors I'm a huge fan of now just by doing that, and that's exactly what you're doing.
It's really remarkable how much, there's so much noise around books, but it is incredible how much you can love a book that you pick up without knowing all that noise about.
So tell me what you do, and for people who are watching on our GBH News YouTube stream, you will see the brown, it's kind of funny actually that normally a liquor bottle or something might be at this.
It's post paper.
Fantastic. So you wrap up the book, we have no idea what's here, but what's on this label that, on the book you have in front of you?
So we try to choose books that, we think there are some books that it's very difficult to summarize, right? But as much as possible to really pull out like the salient 2 points. And I don't advocate for just like grabbing a book at random, right? Like if you don't read thrillers, you're not going to enjoy a thriller. You're not going to enjoy randomly picking up a thriller if you're going into it saying like, I hate this genre. So we are very careful to always say, what genre is this book? Because that really impacts people's enjoyment of the book. But we really try to, we're not going to tell you the plot, but maybe like a little bit of the setup, a little bit of the writing style, and really tease out the things that are, that could catch your attention without seeing the cover.
And so people just, they'll scan. I walked by it as I was coming onto our set earlier, and you'll just scan and you'll pick something not unlike a date that you think works for you.
Yeah, and I mean, just like a date, it's not a lifetime commitment. If you pick up a book and you take it home and you say, actually, I gave it the first 5 chapters and this is just not speaking to me, it is a library book. You can bring it back. You can take another one. It's totally fine. My favorite story so far about this year's display is a friend of mine told me, well, I grabbed a book out of there on the first day because the description sounded so much like a book that I loved, and I was so excited. And then I unwrapped it, and it was the book that I had loved. And I said, well, that's totally fine. You can check out a different one. So there's little risk, but there's no money on the line, and if you return the book's feelings will not be hurt.
Well, of course. So how are you coming up with how are you choosing the books and coming up with the descriptions? Because you and your team have to know just enough to entice people but not give too much away.
I mean, there are a lot of different data sources about books. The BPL actually has access to a database called Novelist that I'm a huge fan of, and that a lot of the time can help. I read a lot of book reviews. Honestly, sometimes you can just I can read the blurb. I can see the inside of the book. I can see the book's back cover before I wrap it up. And I wish that I had a formula that I could tell you, but really I just try and read through as much as I can about the book and figure out what about the book makes it sound exciting, like what piece of that would excite me to read this book. And remove all the other noise around it.
Well, this has been underway for a number of years now, and I'm wondering what some of the great feedback has been in terms of people getting exposure to authors they've become big fans of, or genres maybe, if they're testing new waters, and maybe, well, I'll try a thriller. What have people returned with over the years to make you understand that this is really working, and is it making people even more excited about reading?
I mean, I will say, like, the most direct feedback that we can get is that the display keeps emptying out. You know, we circulate, you know, on average, you know, about 20 books a day, which is pretty exciting. Like, people come in and take 20 books a day. They definitely, I've had people tell me, you know, like, oh, I loved that and I wouldn't have tried it otherwise. I think my favorite piece of feedback was someone who said, like, you know, I came back like 4 times in the same month. I just kept coming back and taking another book. I love to hear those stories. But, you know, we don't hear directly from everyone, but we can see the books get taken, and it's so exciting to see people browsing the shelves and going like, maybe this, maybe that. And we put new books out every day, so even if you don't find your perfect date on the first day, come back tomorrow, come back next week. There will be different books out. It's really fun. You know, it is a lot of work to keep up with, for sure, to just keep wrapping and putting out, but we're happy to do it. It's so exciting for us to see those books go out. And it is definitely a chance for us to like really showcase books that are maybe, you know, like they're not the newest, the shiniest. Maybe they've been on the shelf for a little while. Like a really great candidate for a blind date with a book is a book that was hyper popular 2 years ago. So we have, you know, like 8 copies of it, and it's a great book. People would love it, but they're not going to find it on the new bookshelf. So it's a really great opportunity for us to showcase those books that maybe need a little bit of help.
And is there a span too of, well, I guess you have different genres, so classics could be their own genre, and so it's any span of time that people might be opening too.
Yeah, absolutely.
What have you found recently? We've been talking about this on the show, and I know we've talked about this, so I'm eager to check in with you. And I think it's actually jumping off of what Mary Grant was just talking about, too, the younger analog generation who wants to be back into books. So at this moment, when we hear that attention spans are diminishing and people are moving away from longer forms, that there seems to be a real excitement around the physical book.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, to be fair, this is something that, you know, like I think even the Pew data from, you know, the Pew Research Institute data on reading from, you know, like years has been, you know, like digital formats are great, but, you know, given the choice, all things being equal, most people do still prefer a physical book. There is something about that tactile experience. Like I love having the access, you know, in whatever format gets it to you, but there is something about the tactile experience of holding a book, turning the pages, that is really special, and that does, like, make that connection with people. For sure, you know, we're like, it's really hard right now with so much information bombarding you all the time. I used to just read on my phone, and now, like, if I look at my phone, there's so many other things in my phone, you know, like the book I can't check my email on the book. There's no temptation to open up Instagram on the book. So it is I think a really special experience, which is not to say that you know, whatever format is easiest for you to read in, that is the format that you should be reading in. Really are returning to analog books.
Well, and of course the key is that people are reading. That's what we hope.
That's what we want.
How expansive has your own book dating been? Have you tested what other people have wrapped up?
No, not as such, because I can almost always tell what the book is from the description.
This is why you're good at your job.
But you know, I am diligently doing my winter reading, which is another way that we kind of expand our horizons into new regions, for sure.
What's trending right now? I always love to see at the end of the year when the Boston Public Library issues a list of the most checked out books, and I think it's per branch, so it's pretty exciting. We get to see what's really popular within the city. But what have you begun to notice?
Oh gosh, I feel like it's too early in the year to tell.
Or if we look at the last year too.
I mean, like you know, there, like, Romantasy is still having its moment, for sure.
Romantasy, that's romance and fantasy.
Romance and fantasy all together. If you liked Fourth Wing, that was Romantasy. I think, you know, like we're never, there's always going to be another celebrity memoir for sure. And oh gosh, yeah,
What's the impact that Heated Rivalry has had? We know everybody's watching it. What about on the literary front?
It's been great. Check out our website. I actually did a list of read-alikes for Heated Rivalry if you're waiting in line for it, and we do also have Lucky Day copies. It's really fun. It's really exciting whenever there's a book that's really in the zeitgeist and people are suddenly saying like, oh, let me go to the library. I heard that there's also a book that's really amazing. It's but definitely, hockey romance is not new. There's a lot of hockey romance out there. If that's what you're now checking out, there's a lot of queer romance out there. If that's something that you're just now checking out, there's so many great authors also. But definitely, I enjoyed the show, and I've been really excited to see people like picking up the book and going, oh, I heard that show was good. Let me try this book.
So wait, I have to go back. Hockey romance has long been a thing.
Oh yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I mean, sports romance is a thing, right? There's definitely a big drive behind so there's a lot of different factors. But so romance series, it's really helpful to have like a big team, a big family that can kind of go, everyone gets their happily ever after. So hockey romance is one of several different kinds of team sports that really lends itself to romance. I think there's also a certain amount of like physical danger in a hockey game. You get the excitement, and depending on the sport that you're into, it can be really fun to read a book that combines the sport with the romance. I think Rachel Reed really knows hockey, actually, which is something that I particularly enjoy.
Well, she's Canadian.
She is Canadian.
Certainly tracks.
Yeah.
So have you found people checking out more of those books as they do this exploration, which is also really exciting to know that's happening?
I haven't had direct interaction for sure. I've been recommending okay, if you liked Heated Rivalry, like here are some similar books, and there was so I want to say like 2 years ago there was a big craze for a college hockey romance called Icebreaker. So this is like the next in a big trend. So we saw a big surge, with Icebreaker, and so now we've got Heated Rivalry. There's always going to be another great romance right around the corner.
Which is exciting. We need it. You have these hearts here right on our set. Why do we have these?
All right. So as Valentine's Day, February, blind date with a book, but also the library is running a campaign, I Love the Library Because. So all of the different branches have these little hearts. So if you love your local library, we would love it if you would stop in and write us a little heart telling us why.
Because I love to watch the culture show here. That's what I'll
Absolutely.
I'll
write it. I'll drop it in the box for you.
All right. Thank you. It is always great to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you so much for inviting me.
Veronica Koven-Matasy.
Matasy.
Why can't I get your name right? I apologize for that. I'm so sorry.
It's all good.
You are the Reader Services Director for the Boston Public Library. Blind Date with the Book is on through the end of February at the Central Library in Copley Square. Again, thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Thank you all for listening to another edition of The Culture Show. Big announcement, our next Wednesday watch party is February 18th. During our own bitter cold here in New England, we'll enter the world of Minnesota Nice and Minnesota Noir by way of the snow-crusted crime movie. Do you know where we're going with this? Fargo. You're the book person, not the movie person. I get it. So squeeze your way past the wood chipper or rewatch this 1996 classic, and tune in tomorrow or watch us on the GBH News YouTube channel for Imari Paris Jeffries, President and CEO of Embrace Boston, and Vanessa Bumpus of Museum of Worcester. She's joining us to talk about how Worcester was at the heart of the Valentine's Day industry. Thanks today to Henry Santoro for curating our Culture Cast. Today's engineer is Bill Piattatelli. The BPL technical and logistics crew is Maddie Geyer, Bill Francis, Sandra Lopez-Burke, Juan Jose Cadena, Chris Hanks, Pat Lally, and Olivia Corshio. Also thanks to the Newsfeed Cafe. Thank you to everyone who came down here to the library today. We love seeing you. We love you over there. I'm Jared Bowen. Have a great day.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
You just might find your newest favorite. You'll find instant replay at classical.org. Wagenseil Symphony NF here. Tomas Paul leads the Salieri Chamber Orchestra.